All right, folks, I have 6 o'clock. We're going to get started. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is behind me on the other side of the room.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
All right, just so everyone is aware, this meeting is being recorded. Please let us know if you are recording it as well. Start with our public comment period. Anyone looking to address the meeting, please do so with your name, address, and okay. So if anybody wants to come up and address the meeting. Seeing none, we will go to vote to approve the minutes of the September 10th open session and executive session meetings. Everyone had a chance to read those? Yep. Any questions, comments, edits? Hearing none, entertaining motion to approve the open session meeting minutes from September 10th.
So second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, we will entertain a motion to approve executive session meeting minutes from September 10th as well.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Next is warrants.
I have reviewed the following school expense and payroll warrants. The school expense warrant, September 10th, 2025, 202,186.42, and the school payroll warrant, September 4th, 2025, 1,117,627.53. I wish to enter those into public record.
Thank you. Next, we have our wonderful student representatives. If they are ready for their update.
Hello, everyone. In the middle school, sports teams are off to a strong start with each team already earning wins in the season. Tomorrow will be a busy day as we host both the boys and girls soccer teams, as well as volleyball. In addition, our back to school Meet the Teachers Night will take place tomorrow at Meet as well. We continue to take pride in our middle school classrooms and learning spaces. Just this past week, Norton resident and business owner Jason Massey, I believe, of J. Massey's Sign Install generously donated his time and talent to install a large Norton Lancer logo on our gym wall. The logo itself was provided by our parent board, and we are deeply grateful for their partnership and support. Looking ahead, the majority of our clubs will be up and running next week. The middle school remains a busy, vibrant community where students are active and engaged both inside and outside the classroom. And from the Yale, a tremendous start to the school year, as Mr. Gagan had presented at the last meeting. The Hey Nation is in full swing. The hashtag Hey Nation is in full swing. The fourth graders' transition to the school has been super smooth and successful, especially as we have maneuvered from relationship building and getting to know activities to more academic learning. Our fifth graders have been taking the mantle of role models seriously as they are showing the way to be the older ones in the school. This past Monday, Dr. O'Neill spent the day at the Yale for her residency. She was in and out of the classrooms, talking with teachers and students, seeing all the excellent learning going on, and even did a couple of good news calls of the day. It was an unbelievable honor and treat it was for some of our students to have the superintendent of schools take a picture with them. Thank you, Dr. O'Neill. On that note, Mr. Balawa and Mr. Gagan have already completed 34 good news calls in the past 16 days. This just shows how amazing our students are, how incredible our staff is for noticing our students, and overall what a great community Hey Nation is. And that's all from us. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Benson? Okay, we'll move on to opening of school remarks with Principal TJ Flanagan. On down. Let's do that one again.
We didn't even let him go last, you know?
What's that?
I said, you know, usually the new guy, we let that person go last.
Well, I appreciate this very much. So first of all, TJ Flanagan, new Norton High School principal. I just want to say before I start the presentation, I started here in July, and the moment I stepped on foot on this campus in the school, I felt nothing but welcomed. It has been a true privilege being the principal of this high school. The kids that I've met, you know, staff, parents, community members have been just so welcoming and accepting, willing to help. I will say this, you know, I've been to many high schools, and you know, I stand out with Mr. Shaughnessy. I know Mr. Cersei's on the other entrance in the morning, and I say good morning to the kids. How are you? Right? They don't have to reciprocate. They don't have to say respond, but all of them do, and they do it in a way that it's genuine. And so I'm so proud to be here. I'm so proud of our kids. And like I said, it's just a privilege to be here. So now we have our first weeks of celebration. First off, this wouldn't happen without these individuals. So I actually want to publicly acknowledge the individuals that made the opening school happen. First off is our administrative assistants, Justina Casa, Judy Allen, and Daniel Martian. People don't know the behind the scenes stuff that they do to make sure that school operates, you know, whether it's scheduling, whether it's answering, you know, phone calls, whether it's, you know, answering questions from parents that come in. They have no idea all the behind the scenes stuff. They are the brains behind the school. All right. So I just want to give them a huge shout out. Our custodial team. I'm going to tell you, I've been in many high schools, like I said before, I've never seen the floor is so shiny, right? And in July, I went up to the second floor and it was oppressive. It was hot, humid. And those individuals, Chris, Mark, Greg, Cheryl, it was like service with a smile. They never complained. They worked really hard. And so I want to publicly commend them too for all their work. Our technology department, we had the privilege of having Promethean boards, and you know, there was a little delay. And I will tell you, our technology department led by Karen Winsberg just really, you know, they were able to pivot and they did what they had to do. I mean, I've never seen more responsive and you know, in regards to, you know, to Nick and Paul and the staff and Karen in regards to, you know, I had a question or people, they come right there. It's, I mean, we're talking Nick today. I call Nick MacGyver, right? He is unbelievable. If there's like an issue, he troubleshoots, he's there. So they just have a huge shout out. Guidance department. I'll give a shout out to Mr. Cersei, Vinny Cersei and his team. Scheduling's tough, right? And to be able to, and you're not going to appease everybody, but to be able to accommodate as many kids as we can with regards to their electives, you know, they worked really, really, really hard to do that, and it was seamless. Our school counseling and special ed departments, you know, they, once again, just to collaborate with them in terms of the scheduling piece of it, making sure our kids who are on a 504 IEP have those services in place. They work behind the scenes to make sure that all happened. Our ACs, our academic coordinators and teachers, we did some hiring this summer. And it was one of those things where anytime I reached out to an AC and the teachers, there was no, even though they're on summer vacation, there was no hesitancy. They came in, they were part of that interview committee. And I, like I said, being the new person here, to have their support was truly, I truly appreciate that. And our athletic department, Aaron Sumner is a one-person show. That guy is unbelievable. He will go and he'll line the fields. He'll do everything. He will, make sure that one of the buses is operating. Like we had a coolant leak. He was there to help and support that. People have no idea. And so he deserves a huge shout out in regards to what he does for our kids to providing that athletic atmosphere. New policies are in place. All right. So I actually walked in with some new policies. And I will tell you right now, our cell phone policy, I feel like is off to a good start. And that's partly because a hugely big part of our staff making sure they implement it fully, right? And our students have, I know at first it was a little bit of a, but I got to tell you, like 99.5% of them are on board with this. And I'll tell you right now, just going in classrooms and talking with staff members and even talking with students who were a little reluctant at first, they're engaged, they're there, there's no distraction, right? And so obviously we're charged as a staff to make sure that we continue that implementation and we execute throughout the whole year and beyond. Student in good standing rubric, it's great. We have kids talking to like Mr. Shaughnessy, our assistant principal. Where am I? How am I? What, in terms of my tardies, am I okay? they're being held accountable, which is great, but they're also very responsive in terms of things. Like I had a kid, for example, he was on a sports team, and last year he had some issues with tardiness. We had a long talk about it. And now he's coming in. He's coming in every day. We fist bump each other, and he is here because he wants to be a part of this community, and he wants to, turn a new page in terms of what happened last year. This year's a new start. So I give him a lot of credit. So that good staying rubric is definitely in full effect, and we're seeing some huge benefits to that. Our attendance policy, like I said, there was some, policies there in regards to truancy. We are reinforcing some pre-existing policies that, are, making sure that, that it's student first in regards to the importance of being in school for the entire day, in order to participate in extracurricular activities. That's something that's really, it should be student first. And that's something that we are enforcing. And, we're already seeing attendance improvements from last year to this year. Lancer Limelight. So big believer in, the students that hold these positions, officer positions, captains, what have you. They deserve all the accolades, absolutely. But there are kids that may not have those positions, that may not be acknowledged. And I know that in talking with our staff, and myself included, it's the little things that matter the most. And there are kids that just come in here and they do the right thing every day. And sometimes it gets acknowledged and sometimes it doesn't. Well, this is a way for us to acknowledge that, right? I'll give a quick example. We had our Friday night football game. Okay, we had 2 students on their own free will decide there was trash left in the bleachers, right? And the place was packed. On their own free will decided to then clean up the trash. No one asked, right? That is what we're talking about in terms of Lancer Limelight. Doing something when no one else is asking you and doing the right thing when no one else is looking, right? And so we started that, and we're going to be acknowledging our first students coming up the first Friday in October. Mr. Shaughnessy is really kind of spearheading this, and we're really excited about that. It's going to be one of those things where we have students and we have staff that will nominate these individuals, right? And then we will bring these individuals down and we will tell them why they were nominated, right? So they know that they've been seen in terms of doing the right thing and being kind to people. And then the best part about it is then calling their parent or guardian, right? And letting them know this is why they're nominated. And you got a great kid, and keep up the good work, right? And then they'll be spotlighted in my monthly parents newsletter, and then also with Mr. Shaughnessy's students newsletter as well. Welcoming new students. So grade 9, our student council did a wonderful job with our August 27th orientation. It's funny I was there, when you go in and you see like the deer in the headlights and really nervous, grade 9 students, and they're walking around. They don't know where they are. They gravitate to each other. They're trying to, navigate around the building. These orientation leaders did a tremendous job, led by Liza Grasso and Melissa Beck, who are our advisors, to just kind of like ease their worries, right? And I will tell you what the coolest thing was is after it was all over, they were still in the cafeteria, that we had to like kick them out, right? Because they were just talking to each other, sharing schedules, all that stuff. And it was awesome. And so that means right there that they feel comfortable. They're walking in. So big, huge shout out to that. Meet the Teacher Night was this past Thursday. I want to commend Ms. Haskell and also our student council students who actually came forward and helped our parents, guardians navigate around the building. They were funny. They were wearing signs. No one told them to do this. It's like, get directions here. And they're walking around the hallways, right? And they were awesome. And they were there the whole entire night helping parents and guardians sort of navigate the building. And that was on their own time. So I want a huge special thank you to that. Our guidance events that are coming up, we had a very successful senior college night. To go back to Mr. Sersky and his team, they have worked really hard to provide opportunities to sort of help the parents and guardians and kids go through the process of like what is next after high school, right? And so they have just a menu of events, and we had our first one, which was on September 17th, and I was talking to Mr. Sersky, who was the biggest one that he's had in terms of turnout wise, which is great. And that's kudos to, us trying to help, parents navigate this with the kids too as well. And then this is my newsletter that I do. It's Nancer Loud and Proud. This is as creative as I get, right? But this is a monthly newsletter that I send out, and it's more or less, just trying to celebrate. Like we talked about, and I'll talk about this a little bit later. When I first started this job, I heard, there's so many good things I hope that happen in Norton High School, and it's so true. And so I'm just trying to, with other people, trying to find avenues on how to really showcase that, right? And so this is one of the things that I'm doing. And also, obviously, keeping the parents and guardians informed of like the everyday doings of Norton High School. As I said before, before I was on Twitter, I'm no longer, or X. So what we've done is in terms of these avenues, I've actually started a Norton High School Lancers Instagram page, and really the sole purpose of that is to showcase kids. You know, when they are competing, when they are in the arts, whatever they're doing, like, you know, we had our unified basketball game the other day, like just really showcasing all the great things that we have. And so that's been great, sort of, I want to say bragging, right, about our kids and all the good things that are happening. Celebrating inclusion. I'm going to tell you right now, the highlight for me was this, right? When I first started this position, all I heard about was how huge this Best Buddies program was, how inclusive this community is, right? And to get that, so I had it framed, it's on the front counter. To get that is a testament, not to me, it's to the kids, it's to the staff, that this is a priority, right? And to feel included. I was at a Best Buddies. This is the Best Buddies, our inaugural Best Buddies event. All right. And, you know, Mr. Portway, Ms. Gingras, they advise this, right? And I always say it comes from the top down. They have graded officers too, right? 175 kids signed up for Best Buddies. 175, the largest I've ever heard, right? And these kids all play kickball, right? It was great. I had a chance to kick the ball. It was horrible. Kid threw a curveball at me, so yeah, it kind of caught me off guard, right? But that right here is the highlight right now for me, getting that certificate. I made a promise to be visible, right? And that's something that I hold true, right? It's important. Best part of my job is seeing kids do what they love, right? But what I will say is this class of 2026, they're special to me because I started with them. But I've had conversations with the members of class of 2026, and I will say this, they set the tone for the building, right? If it's a positive, inclusive class, everything else trickles down, right? And I will tell you, I am so proud of this class. Benson, you're a huge part of this, okay? And your officers, right? Ryan's here, I know too, right? And, you know, you guys are what sets the stage for a successful school year. So we had an awesome senior sunrise. Here's what I'll tell you. I live in Easton. It was pouring. 5 o'clock in the morning, pouring. I got an email from Mr. Portway saying, it's still on, right? I go over the Norton line and the sky's cleared up. I'm like, this is special, right? So I get there and it is dry as can be. And what do you have? Hundreds of kids, like your entire class is there. That is huge. They could have been like, I'm sleeping in, it's raining. Nope. They were there and they had a ball, right? This was the start of it, right? Now we get to the senior sunset cruise. Another beautiful day. Every kid that was like intermingling with each other. That's what it's all about. It wasn't just factions of kids. They're all intermingling with each other. This group right here, like I said, the class of 2026, I'm excited and we're only in September, right? We still got many more months ahead. So I challenge them to continue being unified, continue being inclusive, and making sure that, you know, you set that example for everybody else. Ball sports. We have the girls soccer team, volleyball team. We have the cross country team. We have the golf. By the way, the golf was great. I'm a golfer, so I picked up a couple tips here. That was great. We have football, boys soccer. We have cheerleading. They take pride in what they do, right? And I will tell you, I'm very proud of our kids, and I'm encouraging them more and more, right? To not just go to particular sporting events, to go to other events. And we've talked about this in our student assemblies, okay? And I'm not just talking about athletics, I'm talking about arts, music, when all those events come up, right? And that's where I'm going to rely on the senior class to really set that tone, right? Because they will follow, all right? Staff loud and proud. I'm going to tell you right now, I have such a good time with this staff, right? Teaching is hard work, but you got to be able to have fun at the same time, right? And they are so dedicated. And I'm privileged to be their principal. We had these were the chaperones on our senior cruise. And then this was nice that the football team honored these staff members during halftime of last Friday's football game. And I wanted to find a funny little thing, so looking forward to an awesome school year. Thank you for your time. It's been a really good start, and I look forward to the rest of this school year.
Thank you, Principal Flanagan. Anybody have any questions or anything?
Oh, I say, you right?
So as a parent of a high school student, I have to say I'm beyond thrilled. I came to the open house, you gave us naps, that was amazing. I was like, hey, I actually can find where I'm going. And the whole thing, like everything that you just presented rings true. My daughter has done Unified since she was in 5th grade. So she's really excited about the Best Buddies program. She already signed up for DECA. Like she has gone in all in and she is very excited about high school. She is having a great time. She settled very quickly. As a child that has anxiety, like she's really thriving. And she had a tough choice to make between whether she was going to go to Southeastern or stay here in Norton. She chose Norton and she hadn't looked back and she's very excited. And so that's really a testament to the climate of the school. So I thank everybody that, you know, encounters my daughter and you're all doing a fabulous job and you are very present, which is so refreshing. So thank you so much.
As a parent of a senior, it's funny because she came home last week and she's like, yeah, I saw the new principal outside. He was talking to somebody. And then she's like, he dead stopped his conversation to like greet a group of kids. And she's like, I've never seen that in my 4 years, that someone like genuinely stops a conversation to introduce himself to kids. And, you know, and a side note is, you know, I've heard from multiple different staff members through you know different sources that you are doing well and you're very well received. So and it's nice to see you got your purple swag. But you know, we've heard a lot of good things, so I think you were the right person for the job, and you know we look forward to seeing more good things from you as the year goes on. Anything else?
I think just echoing Dan's words, you know, one of the big things from the entire interview process was changing the culture, you know, and I think we kind of hit a jackpot here with TJ. You know, I think exactly what he just presented, you know, coming from the student mindset first is critical to what we're trying to do in our flagship school, you know, so I think kudos to you. You know, I've heard from multiple parents, multiple staff members, you know, around town of how much different the feel is in this building in the first 3 weeks of school. So, like I said, I think you're doing a great job so far and keep it up. And I look forward to kind of keeping this rolling.
Thanks, TJ.
Thank you.
Next we have our student spotlight, the Norton High School Step Out.
Thank you. So tonight it is my honor and privilege to introduce two very special people. The first one is Jamie Mall, who is our Step Out teacher here at Norton High School. And the other is Ryan Tatarzik. Ryan is a student in our Step Out program here at Norton High. So come on up.
I'm Jamie. I'm the step out teacher. I have Ryan on high school. So I made a quick video as a description and explanation of our STEP program. So here it is.
The Step Out program is a post-graduation transition program for students aged 18 through 22. The mission of the Step Out program is to provide quality educational and transitional support for students who are eligible to receive continued vocational and life skills instruction after completion of 12th grade. The Step Out program focuses primarily on life skills necessary for students to transition to adult living, including functional academics, self-advocacy skills, independent living skills, vocational skills, and social skills.
I think the biggest areas of growth for the students are to empower the students to achieve independence and more self-confidence in what they do on a daily basis.
While learning typically takes place in a classroom, for the students in the Step Out program, learning can take place anywhere. Students may volunteer at places like Mansfield Shredding or Mansfield Bar Pizza. Students learn on-the-job skills as well as soft skills such as communication, time management, and teamwork. Students enjoy bowling, shopping, getting coffee, and walking at local paths to explore their community. These are fun activities, but they provide students with the opportunity to learn social skills, budgeting, planning, and reading maps.
What are some things that you've learned while being in the Step Out class?
I like to help in the community. I help at the pizza restaurant, at shredding, and at BSU. I learn a lot from Jamie and Debbie. Students also participate in programs with Attleboro Enterprises and Bridgewater State University with other districts' post-graduation programs, such as Mansfield, North Attleboro, Canton, and others. The goal of these programs are to develop social, independence, and self-advocacy skills, which assist students in growing into adulthood.
One of our students is, that we work with is deaf. So what we try to do is empower her with self-advocacy skills so that she can communicate her wants and needs. In this way, she'll be able to navigate her world with independence in any environment, socially as well as emotionally.
In addition, we have students who are part of the Excel program at Bridgewater State University. Students in the Excel program take one class per semester, get an internship on or near campus, get a peer mentor, and have weekly meetings with Excel staff to work on career and personal goals while they are in college. Students are fully immersed as college students and are able to access everything on campus from the gym to library to dining halls. Students have an ed coach from Norton who accompanies them and helps the students to build their skills and goals as they move towards adulthood. Why did you want to go to Bridgewater State?
Well, because they went all through class and our friends.
What skills have you learned since being in the Step Out class?
Time management and listening.
What has Bridgewater done to help you reach your goals?
It helped me to learn how to save money. I've been doing that for last year, and I did that in the house.
So my role as a head coach in the Step Out program is to help the students in any way that I can. But I've noticed that as an ed coach, professors and peers will come to me first before talking with the students that I work with. My purpose is to help them advocate for themselves, and it's hard to do that when the professors and peers want me to speak for them. I feel like my role is to better understand and how to communicate with our students first, and then use me to help better understand what might be going on. And the purpose of the Excel program is to give them as much independence as possible, and I'm just here to help them along the way.
When students turn 22, some may choose to work, while some go to adult programs with community-based day supports. At the end of the day, the goal of the Step Out program is to provide students with independence, self-advocacy, and self-awareness, and any other skills that they will be using in their adult life. What do you like about being in the Step Out program?
I like music therapy.
What else do you like?
I like shredding.
Working in the Step Out program has taught me more than I could have imagined. I have learned the importance of your words and responses, different ways and tools to encourage student engagement and self-advocacy, better communication skills, and how to grow deeper connections with students in the program. The beauty of working with students with disabilities is learning to expect the unexpected. You'll be put in social situations and interactions you simply never expected. So it forces you to look inside, to question, Am I just reacting, or am I truly responding with what is best for the student? I have learned that the best way I can support students is if I've done the work myself. This program has taught me to grow, to keep showing up even when I'm frustrated or it doesn't make sense. Trust the process, because even though it's mostly in the long game you see wins, you are making a difference. This program has been a true blessing, not only in the amazing opportunity it presents to the students for growth and success, but the gift in life it has given me to be able to say, I get to do this. I get to be part of their story. We all have a purpose in this world, and this program has given me the desire to lean in closely to the students and help foster their skills, gifts, and the places in which they can thrive in our community.
Welcome my Jack and I'm
Um, Does anyone have any questions or for me or for Ryan about what we do in the program or?
Yes, I was a former member of the STEP program under Donald Ruder from 2001, 2005. And it was a good experience and I learned a lot. And now look at me, 20 years later, I'm thriving and being a happy person. Thanks to the STEP program.
That's awesome.
Right.
I don't know how, the video is so amazing, because I think it's so challenging to really explain how much the STEP program does and the students that are in our program and all the things that they have available to them. And I think Ryan and all of his peers in the STEP Up program did a really great job conveying what they like about the program, the things that they've learned, the benefits. It was like, I'm a little bit speechless because it was just really, really powerful. So thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Ryan.
Brian, you played a great game this week.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It was
I
a
can't wait
good
to see
game.
next week's game too.
Anything else, guys? All right, thank you for your time. We
so
appreciate it.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Next, we have 2026 National Merit Scholarship commended students with.
So this is the fun part. I'd like to have come forward Ryan Bratt and Ben Yesikevich, please. So I want to give you a little background here before I award their certificates. And it's something that they were the only two out of Norton High School that achieved this. So this is quite an accomplishment. Okay. I'll read a little bit of the background to see how everyone has some context. Students entered the National Merit Scholarship Program, a nationwide competition for recognition and awards conducted by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. By taking the 2024 preliminary SATs, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, last October, in April, they were identified as the top 50,000 highest scorers nationwide. That is huge. And I just want to, as Norton High School, I know I can probably speak for your parents and guardians too as well, are so proud of you. I had the privilege of calling your parents and inviting them, and they were like over the moon excited about it. And so we want to publicly acknowledge and congratulate you for being a commended student for a letter of commendation, for the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. So Ryan, there you go. Congratulations.
You go right then. Ready?
Congratulations.
Great job, guys. All right, next we have DECA field trips for the 2025-26 school year. Wait, Mrs. Pilak.
And gets to come back.
Good evening, everybody. I think I know most of you. My name is Rachel Peel. I'm the AC for Business and Technology. And we are here tonight, Mr. Fortway and myself, and a couple of our DECA officers, to seek approval for the various trips that we have coming up this year. We have power trip in Washington DC area. Then we have our district conference, the overnight conference down in Hyannis, then we have our state conference up in the Seaport District in Boston, the Sports and Entertainment Conference in Orlando, Florida, and hopefully some competitors for Atlanta, the National ICDC in Atlanta. So we have some of our officers here to give you a few details on the program.
All right, my name is Benjamin Yazikevich. I'm the executive president of Norton DECA this year. I am very gracious to be able to talk a little bit about our success from last year as well as our vision for this year. So last year, our students were prepared for their competitions through practice role plays with our officer team, where they got one-on-one feedback on how to improve their role plays, and they gradually improved. We saw everyone do better over the course of this, and the students would come down and take their own time to come down during their homeroom, as well as our officers coming down to judge them every single day, which is just incredible for both our students and officers. We also had officers creating 100-question practice tests to simulate the real exam that students were required to take as a part of their score for the competition. And all of these students completed their exams, and we saw scores gradually rise as well. And a lot of these tests were kind of make or break for how students performed at the competitions, and a lot of it was success because of how they did on the test. We also had students writing 10 to 20 page papers for projects that they created, and it's a lot to write 10 to 20 pages, especially the high schooler, and also meeting deadlines. But these students managed to make these deadlines, and we had a couple of projects even qualify really far because of how much effort the students put into their projects. So our officer team and students, obviously, everyone put in a lot of work, and it couldn't have been done without any of these people stepping up. But it doesn't necessarily mean anything unless we had success. But we had 75 members at Norton DECA last year. 58 qualified to the state competition in some capacity, which is a very big amount, especially compared to years past. And then 19 of those students qualified for the international competition. We've had maybe 5 and 1 in years past, but this was a huge number and a big accomplishment for us as a chapter, and just a testament to our preparation and how much work we put in to help these students succeed. And then we ultimately sent 15 students, 9 competed and did very well at the international competition.
I'm Talia Briggs. I'm the vice president of DECA. And basically, like, going off of what Benny was saying, our success was like evident in the past year, and we want to like just continue that. And our officers have already started in their summer. We got an email from Mr. Portway saying on August 1st, let's get started on this plan because what we were doing isn't working. And let's like start earlier so we can have more success. And honestly, that's already started working because last year we had 75 members. Our goal was to increase by 30, but we now have 110 members this year. And so with that opportunity, we want to bring those members to like the higher levels. And bring them, hopefully we had 19 last year qualify for nationals. We want to, make that number jump even more. And that starts with like very beginning of the year, reeling in the new members was our first goal, and we accomplished that, and that was very exciting to see. And that was through our hard work again. And our next goal is to like really explain to our new underclassmen what DECA is, which we've always struggled with in the past because like the concept of DECA is like, okay, I get that it's a business club, but what do you do? And so we're starting with that, which just like introducing the underclassmen and new members. We actually have a meeting tomorrow. It's gonna be like a really fun, cool way to like bring the members in and like show them what DECA is all about. And for this coming year, we have a new training program that like our training VP has worked really hard on and can only be accomplished through a big leadership team, which we have grown this year to include underclassmen so that when they're juniors and seniors, they can understand like what is a leadership role. And so we're like kind of taking them under our wing. I've been personally working with our underclassmen program and like really trying to like bring them into DECA and leadership and like empowering them to like leaders of DECA and hopefully outside the business.
To sum up all of that, going off Mr. Flanagan's point from earlier, the class of 2026 has been pivotal in like every extracurricular that we've had here. But especially in DECA, like since they were freshmen, like they hit the ground running and they've really built so much of our framework and our program throughout the years. And so we're really looking forward to this year together. I ran some numbers. So there's a narrative that it's like, oh, you go on these trips, that's really fun. You get out of school for a couple of days, right? But as they talked about, like the amount of work that these students do to be prepared to do well is insane. So for the next 7 months, our officer team, along with their members, will conduct 1,500 role plays, and those role plays are like case studies. So they get 10 minutes, they get a scenario, like a real business scenario, and they have to solve it, and they have to present it to a judge. So they're going to be running 1,500 of them, and giving feedback on the spot and doing that for the next 3 months. We'll have over 80,000 exam questions that will be answered and sent out to our students over that time, that they'll get feedback on as well. And in addition, students writing 10 to 20 page papers and putting together these really professional presentations. And so this program is extraordinary. Like I can't think of a better opportunity for high school students than to learn how to tie a tie and then go sit in front of a judge who's a business professional and actually present to them, a complete stranger, what they've been working on for months. And we're super grateful to our leaders who are really making this happen and stepping it up every single year. So we ask for your approval for our trips this year so we can go and compete and have another record-breaking year.
And I talked to some parents the other night at Meet the Teachers Night who were really excited about their kids joining DECA, just for some of the reasons that these, that Benny and Ty and, Mr. Portway have talked about, just that it helps with job interview skills and it helps with, just kids not being, shy about talking to adults and, even just going as far as to, a good handshake and some eye contact and body language and, all those things. So these are really all fundamental things that DECA teaches, and a lot of academic skills embedded in there as well. So very worthy, we believe.
Going back so many years that I've been here, Mr. Portway was one of our DECA kids. I was approaching trip when he was in high school. That's not showing how. I've actually known Mr. Portway since preschool. So not showing either one of our ages, by the way. The one thing I've always liked about DECA is, there's no one student that fits the DECA mold. Like, because it doesn't have your typical, it's not always a business student. It's not always, a straight A student or a C or D student. It's, it's a kind of a hodgepodge of students from various different backgrounds. I was talking to a friend of mine whose daughter started and, very kind of quiet kid. I've known her a whole life, but it, again, doesn't fit any mold because there isn't one. And, kudos to you guys as the leaders that, and you guys for your executive positions, that you're constantly training that new generation, that next group, the juniors, the sophomores. So, and that's the one thing I like about DECA is the top student seniors are training those next students because that's how the program keeps growing. And the success has been evident for years. So for me, this is always a no-brainer because this is our students doing something outside of their school time that, as you mentioned, it takes a lot. And I'm always surprised that when we look at the numbers, how those look for you go to school for 5 days a week, you got homework, and then it's like, oh, by the way, let me do on my own time, a bunch of hours and help my classmates prepare for their presentation. So for me, this is always a no-brainer, but I don't know if there's any other comments or questions.
I just wanted to say, so when I started on school committee, I will be very honest, I did not understand what DECA was. And then when having you guys come and ask and voting on these, I'm like, this sounds wonderful. And then over the years, I've really started to understand and the life skills that you are able to teach these kids and help them practice. And it really is something that you can take from here and use in the real world. And Benny, you mentioned that a 10 to 20 page paper is a lot for a high school student. I will say, being slightly older than a high school student, a 10 to 20 page paper is a lot for anybody. So that is a true testament to very hard work that you guys are putting into this. And again, I would have to echo no brainer. So.
Anything else?
I would just say same. And as a business owner, DECA kids are amazing because they actually will make eye contact with you. They can answer the phone, which is a huge scary thing for people. But I love this program. I'm very excited. My daughter has joined DECA. My husband and I were talking last night because we're both school teachers, and we're like, we don't know anything about anything other than this. And so we're really excited that this is kind of offering up an experience for her outside of this small world of teaching, which is the only thing that we know. So so it's just gonna open up, more avenues for her to figure out what she kind of, maybe what she wants to do with her, life when she grows up. So, I mean, she's already kind of grown up, but, so I'm just really excited. So yeah, no brainer.
With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the DECA trips as presented.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Congratulations. All right, next we have first reading. Policy. Policy.
Give Mrs.
Yeah, she just gets a chair up there. Getting the steps in.
I'm back. So I'm actually, I have, Dr. Ackerman, Mr. Sosi join me as well, because they worked with me and along with, guidance from Dr. O'Neill in regards to the, competency determination policy. So, we're gonna split up the presentation, but I want to thank all of them for their hard work too as well. And we had some really great conversations as to kind of what that looks like for here from, Norton High School, and considering obviously students and, regards to, the, we'll say the role that MCAS potentially plays. So just a little overview. In November of 2024, the Mass Board approved question 2, which was prohibit the use of MCAS to earn a competency determination to obtain a high school diploma, right? And so in May of 2025, DESE provides some guidance and regulations on what school districts must require for students to earn their competency determination. So really, in essence, there's 2 buckets. I'm trying to use an analogy, all right? So we have the competency determination bucket. That's through, that we as Norton Public Schools have to come up with. And then we also have our local requirements, right? And so in order for a student to earn their high school diploma, they have to fill both buckets, right? And so we're going to talk about the first bucket, which is the competency determination. And then at the very end of the presentation, we're going to ask, or we're going to show you our recommendation as to an adjustment to the local requirement too, that's currently there. So first off, we are actually, in terms of the DESE guidance, we are aligning our competency determination to what their suggestions are, which is a successful completion of 2 years of a certified English course with full credit, obtaining full credit, minimum passing grade, successful completion of 2 years of a certified math course, full credit, minimum passing grade, and then also a successful completion of at least 1 year, 5 credits of a certified science course. And I don't know why this is in black, but anyway, in 2027, there is going to be a history component to this. So it's we're gonna require at least 1 year of a certified history course for full credit, minimum passing grade. So that's aligning the guidance.
Quick question.
Sure.
Have these gone down? Because I thought, wasn't it 4 years of English?
That's the difference. Is the
Yes.
requirement.
So this is exactly, so this is just the competency determination, and then the local requirement stays the same with 4 years of math, 4 years of English. The only adjustment will be in regards to MCAS and the role that has in terms of graduation.
Thank you.
Welcome. So the certified courses that we have identified are English 1 and 2 courses, Algebra 1 and Geometry courses, either biology, introductory physics, physics and chemistry courses, and then, like I said, for the U.S. history course too as well. This is all aligning with the DESE regulations and their recommendations. It says in order to maintain that, student must demonstrate mastery, which Dr. Ackerman is going to talk a little bit about in the next couple slides. Skills, competencies, and knowledge contained in the state academic standards and curriculum frameworks.
So the competency determination, if is demonstrating mastery, is really talking about the how. So what are students going to be asked to do in their coursework? So for ELA, it's similar to what we've done. Students are going to complete comprehensive assessments, including like a mid-year, a final, or a project-based learning activity. So one of our overarching goals for all of our ELA programs is to make sure that our students can read effectively. So we're going to summarize, predict, recall, synthesize, and apply information. Also making sure that proper vocabulary is embedded. All of our ELA students will be able to write and communicate effectively using proper structure, grammar, organization, mechanics, and critical thinking. Making sure that our students also have the skills of identifying and working collectively to solve problems. And then obviously a transferable long-term skill is to make sure that we gather and evaluate sources and resources to make sure that we meet our high school rubric for academic expectations. For math, we want to make sure, again, similar, we keep the requirement about exams. And then for mathematics, also making sure that we understand and apply the linear and exponential relationships in real world contexts. So whether it's algebra or geometry as a course, these are mastery expectations that we have for all kids to make sure that we can analyze and solve algebraic equations, algebraic functions and data modeling, demonstrate spatial visualization and geometric relationship skills. Of course, the primary purpose of math is to use deductive problem-solving methods across a range of mathematical concepts and make sure that all of our students meet the high school's academic expectations through mathematical reasoning. For science, again, first requirement is the same. It's about assessments, mid-years, and finals. Again, across content, making sure that our students can apply essential scientific concepts through hands-on experimental work and data analysis to identify and solve scientific problems, working collaboratively and independently in a laboratory and research setting, gather and evaluate scientific information from multiple sources to support conclusions. And again, the common thread that we make sure that our students meet the high school expectations on scientific inquiry in our rubrics. And then finally, for history, making sure that we understand all of the historical concepts from the Revolutionary War through the Industrial Revolution, ensuring our students can analyze American democracy, governmental systems, westward expansion, and political party development, making sure our students can examine economic and social change, sectional conflict, Civil War and Reconstruction. Key indicator or key competency for U.S. history is reading and writing effectively about numerous historical topics, ensuring that students are able to use the proper structures and critical thinking, and analyzing historical documents to support arguments and conclusion. And lastly, is to ensure that our students can work collaboratively and independently to evaluate information from multiple sources.
So, when we have our own students coming in, that's easy for us to do, right? Because they're following our process. We're gonna be checking to make sure they're meeting our local requirements. So what this is talking about is when students essentially move in, especially if they move in later in their academic careers. This is very similar to be honest, what myself and the guidance department do anyways. We have a move-in student, right? We're checking to see what courses have they taken, how does it align with our graduation requirements, have they passed certain courses, maybe there's a prerequisite that, they need to take to get to the next step, so forth and so on. So we review transcripts all the time. Typically, if they're moving in-state, that's simple. It gets a little bit more complicated sometimes when it's out of state, but, we either work with the department heads, the academic coordinators, kind of figure that out. There may be times when we are looking at in them placement exams or trying to figure it out that way. Oftentimes, I'll reach out to the schools themselves, ask about their curriculum, get some more information. Usually give that to Dr. Ackman because I don't really know the curriculum. And not my strength. And then we go from there. And it does have to, again, align to the state standards. And then, there will still be state testing, whether it's here or someplace else. So sometimes we can use that as well. So we take all of that to make sure that it meets our standards, meets the state standards for this competency. So again, very similar to what we've always been doing. And then as part of the DESE guidance, right? So there are students who in 23, the class of 23, 24, they were able to reach out to us and say, okay, I didn't pass MCAS, but I think I met the competency determination. So based on that, we are able to provide them, I do again, kind of review the transcript, make sure that it meets all the things they're supposed to do. There's that process to do that within 10 days. That's easy. We have that information. It doesn't take that long. And then I notify the principal and the superintendent and say, yep, she or he has met all of the requirements. And, we get them a final transcript, we changed the year of graduation, and give them their diploma. So that's. I had to say that because that's what they told me to say. So,
So
there we are.
I guess my one question is, if we look back, say historically, and I'm putting you on the spot, but like, would we have? But if we say had eliminated MCAS like 10 years ago, would we still have students that could be on the bubble and not graduate just from their academics alone, taking out MCAS?
Do not graduate.
Yeah, like not grad, like.
Yeah, I mean, there's
There's always a couple of
there's
kids,
always a
but-
few. I would say a lot of them may have graduated. Not all of them, not all.
So
But
they
there would have been some
Might have been
kids.
better off without an M. So we have kids every year that struggle with MCAS.
Mhm.
So
But
this
they
could
have-
put them in a better.
They have met those basic competencies, yes.
Okay.
And gone beyond that.
So, they kind of walked you through the recommendations that we have. And then in your packet, we have two, policies for you as a first read. The first is IKFE, which is the competency determination. This is a brand new policy for Norton Public Schools. We do not have one that currently exists. So it's a little bit lengthy. It is based off of the model, policy that was developed by MASC. So the beginning is very simple. It explains why we have it. It talks about the coursework requirements from the state. And then it goes through the aligned courses that we have here in Norton. Please note that where it says English Language Arts, I neglected to update it to English 1 and English 2, even though we had this conversation yesterday. So I have to make that change there. And then for all of them, it talks about the fact that it talks about successful completion, and then the minimum passing grade. It also notes that for math, math is the only area where you don't necessarily have to be in high school to take some of that coursework, because we do have some 8th graders that are currently taking Algebra 1, so they take that course at Norton Middle School, it still qualifies towards that competency determination. But we mark that there. It also talks about our additional considerations for students with disabilities or English language learners. And it also walks through the appeal process.
So. This is correct. It's 2003 to 2004, is it 2023?
No, it's from 2003, which was the very first year that they had the graduation requirement that touched upon MCAS. Yes, I know it looks weird, because you're like, why would we be going that far back in time? But part of the regulation changes allows people that may not have graduated at that time because of the MCAS qualifications to go back and request that their high school audit their transcript. So that is correct. So that will be what we would do if anyone were to come forward, and I believe we've had 1 or 2 people so far
We've had one.
come forward and ask.
And that person was able to get a trade school. Who wasn't gonna be able to in that case.
Yep, which is awesome.
Worked out great.
And then the second policy we have for you tonight, again, this is a first read. This is it's IKF graduation requirements. This is the one we actually updated last spring when we had to do this under a quick time constraint. And we talked about the competency determinations there. So we took out any information that had to do with competency requirements, because we now have a whole beautiful policy all to itself. And the other thing that we added was that in order to graduate from Norton High School, a student must have earned at least 95 credits. That's our current policy. And it used to say, and complied with all state accountability requirements. Now that those are no longer state requirements, we are saying that in order to graduate from Norton High School, you must participate in state required assessments. We're not saying they have to pass. We're not saying they have to get any sort of qualifying score. We're just saying they need to sit down and take the test. And ultimately, that's for us as a school district, because we are held accountable to, number one, the scores that we get as a district, but also to the number of students that we have that actually participate. And what we saw, and we'll share with you once our MCAS data is unembargoed next week, what we saw was a huge decline in the number of students that participated last year. And that is really challenging for us because for years when we do not have the minimum participation rate of 95%, if you have that for more than a couple of years in a row, that can impact our grants. It can impact our ability to make decisions about what we teach here in Norton. And it could potentially put us in a position where the state is coming in and giving us more guidance than what we would like. So we felt that this was something that was important to us as a school community. So any questions that you have about anything that the team here presented tonight or the two policies themselves?
So, I mean, not wanting to look too far ahead, but has there been any rumors or anything that says they're coming out with another type of assessment to replace MCAS? Like, are we gonna go through all this again and there's gonna be a new test, or like, have they even?
I would say never say never. I mean, I think based on federal guidelines, current federal guidelines, we have to assess every student at least in, at least 3 times throughout their career. We used to do 4th, 7th, and 10th. That is still a federal guideline. We still have to give some sort of common assessment. I think that the state of Massachusetts and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education have to really look at the way that they're evaluating schools now. Our accountability ratings are hand in hand with MCAS. And as I mentioned to you, the participation rate is a challenge for us. But having all of those things that were high stakes previously tied to funding for schools and what we're doing, it's not fair. Honestly, and I sound like a child, it's not fair. But ultimately, when Casey and Brian were in the same room with me last year at a conference, and I raised my hand and I said, what is the department considering when it comes to reevaluating accountability ratings? Because I'm concerned that now that it's no longer required, except X, Y, and Z. And they said, oh, we don't believe it will have anything to do with participation rates. So conversations with conversations with my colleagues across the district, across the state have been very similar, whether you are in a place like Norton or in a place like Weston. Everyone saw a sharp decline in participation and achievement as well. So it'll be interesting to see what comes forward. So I would say, yeah, maybe.
The state's answer.
Yeah.
Just to add on to what Jen said, we had this speculative conversation that they're looking for us to do the work. So they're gonna get 351 of these applications. But they all have to be submitted by December 31st. Then they will, in our opinion, pick the most cumbersome, burdensome regulatory one and then send it back to us. But that's speculation on our part.
No, I think you know. Maybe some little experience.
So when you're talking about the 95%, is that for the entire district or just the sophomore class?
It's 95% for each school.
Okay.
So Norton Middle School has to get their 95%. It's for every grade in every school.
So I'm only asking because, so this graduation requirement, are we tracking the students from elementary up? So like if.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's why I'm asking about like what we're.
They would need to sit for tests in high school.
High school, right, that's what I was checking, because again, like.
Oh, gosh.
That's what I'm trying to figure out
things
where
are going right
we're
now.
going with that, so it has to be the sophomores that have to do the.
Yep, so when you're in high school, you have to sit for every assessment.
Yeah, that's what I was questioning.
What's our, this could be a tough one, but what's our plan to have kids sit down and test and actually care?
Oh, well, it doesn't say no caring at all.
I don't want to offer any panaceas because we know that it's difficult. But to piggyback on what Jen said earlier, there are working groups among like district level cohorts of people. I'm trying to currently organize one with the assistant superintendent's group to sit collectively and strategize and problem solve around motivation, around energy, around ways to engage kids positively to take the test. Like we really want to, as a collective, say to the kids, it's just important you do your best. That's it, nothing else, so we can just, as Jen alluded to earlier, make sure that we can stay above those participation thresholds because of all the other consequences that could potentially come by not being there year over year.
And just to piggyback on that, there's also scholarships that are still there, right? So Abigail Adams, Toplick. So there's stuff, that they're incentive to do the best you can on these exams as well.
I was just,
And I
I think the carrot dangling still there is if you do really well in your state schools, that is all still in.
It's all still in play.
But guess what? The ones that are getting that, are the ones that are driven to do well on the test because it's their own, like, drive to begin with.
Yes, well,
So
but it
they
does
were gonna
help.
irregardless, they're gonna do that anyway. So
I think the other thing too is that we are constantly having conversations with students about the importance of things that we do here. So all of our students take STAR assessments, beginning in kindergarten, all the way now through grade 10. And the better we are with that data, the more valuable students will see it. So like, hey, you did really well on this, or we're using that to drive instruction and say to kids, hey, we noticed that you guys already have mastered this. So this year, our math class is going to start here instead of there. Or, we've noticed that this group really could use more support with Y, and we're going to provide you with that. So I think the more students see the connection between what the assessment they're doing and how it impacts what they're getting in the classroom. The hard part about MCAS is that you don't get any of that information until the summertime, right? So those students have already moved on.
Yeah.
And so I think that the department needs to do a better job of getting information back to schools and to students so we can share that with families. I've also shared there's a new MCAS parent portal coming out. They will be, we will get letters probably next week, if not the week after, just share with families about how their child did. But then families will also, beginning in October, have their own login and see their child's historical data as well.
I also think there's that idea of a sense of belonging and sense of pride in the high school, right? Feeling that they're connected and it means something. I think that has an impact. There's gonna be kids that it doesn't, but if you can raise that bar by saying, hey, this is something, that reflects on your high school. And it reflects on how colleges will look at your high school down the road. Those are the kind of things, but you can't do that unless you have that sense of belonging and pride. So I think the things that we've been talking about, or Planning was talking about, are important.
Circling back again to that 95% question that I had. So we're talking about the high school for this graduation. That's one school of 5. So again, we get that required participation for the high school. There's nothing really of an incentive for middle school and below at this moment in time. So like, what happens if the other 4 schools are not meeting that participation requirement? Is that still having an effect and an impact upon or do they really only care mostly about the high school level?
Oh, no, Jesse cares.
Right, so what I'm asking is that we're putting this in and we're dangling this carrot on the high school students. How is that being an incentive for the rest of our district?
Right, so this is a policy on graduation requirements. So I think it's probably a bigger conversation about what our expectations are. The Department of Education will tell you that they do not have an opt-out policy for MCAS. And I said, great, so what do I tell families that are now opting their, they don't allow it, but there's no teeth. Is really what it comes down to.
Right.
So it's myself and the building principal chasing these families and saying, you need to sit down. And then I also,
Can we create teeth?
the opt-out policy is now different in terms of curriculum. Right, which we discussed at our last meeting.
Correct.
So, I think, I know that building principals are already having these conversations with their teachers about like the message that we need to send as educators, that this is important. It's, while you may not see the value and benefit for your child as an individual, it's really important for us as a district that we are able to, get this data and, take from it what we were able to. So, I don't know. I mean, there's really not much that we can create with teeth, but we can see what other districts are doing, because this is not just a Norton issue. A lot of people are running into this now.
Our numbers are typically high
Mhm.
for our younger kids taking this test.
Yeah.
And there is really no teeth we've ever had. Well, and so I think our issue would probably be more middle school. This is the requirement for high school where it's, you know, bigger one, if you will. So I mean, we also might be okay to hit that 95% threshold.
And so what I would say is data is still embargoed, so I really can't talk about it publicly at this moment. But I think that, we're having conversations about places where we might be on the cusp. And places where we have concerns. And so, you know, it goes along with the conversations that we're having about attendance and the importance of being in school and learning. So, starting to see a common theme. So this is just tonight. There are no votes that need to happen. But if there's anything that you have questions about or would like us to see us update, please let me know.
Can I ask a overarching question with the mastery list of what we kind of just saw in the presentation? Like, who kind of came up with those bulleted points?
So the guidance itself, like some of the metrics are from DESI, so they gave us like a bucket of indicators.
Okay.
But the rest of it kind of comes from like our local context, practices that we've already had. So if we have school-wide rubrics based upon academic competencies, they're perfectly eligible to go in.
Say not a committee, but was there like a committee to kind of decide these? Was it admin driven? Was it teacher driven? Was it?
I think these have kind of been the long-standing practices.
Okay.
You know, in terms of like dispositions about reading and writing and assimilating knowledge and spreading knowledge across different content. It really dovetails with what's been happening at the high school.
I think my last piece, because I know we talked about graduation requirements in the spring, and I think I said it then as well, but like I really truly believe we should be adding some type of financial literacy course at the high school. That is a graduation requirement to take, whether it's your third or fourth year at the school. I think it would be a great thing to look at. I also think having some type of senior project where these kids, almost in a DECA world type idea, and put it to the Norton community. Doing a project that they can work at an LLB together, figuring out exactly what that looks like. I have no idea, but I feel like that would be a step above, that would separate Norton. And it would give our kids a huge leg up, because we know how DECA does great things for college applications. Having something that's Norton that's driven from that way would also be a huge application boost for our students. And not even throw the college aspect of it, a huge learning boost in terms of getting out, being able to answer a phone, talk to adults, all that fun stuff, I think would be a great thing to start looking at it.
I think, and you might be, doesn't the civics classes do some of those type, because I know I've seen,
Yeah.
you know, some things with some of those kiddos doing.
Yeah, the civics,
wonderful things, but-
it's part of civics, and I don't
And that's a
know.
state law,
That's-
that every student participate in a civics project during high school, yeah. And this policy allows for that flexibility, Nick. It does allow us to add in a particular program or credits that are maybe needed in certain areas. So this is not our exhaustive list of graduation requirements. This is more of the general, like our students take 125 credits. We're saying they have to have at least 95. It gives us a little bit of flexibility in certain situations. And then we added the state required assessment. But I think, you know, that's something that we kind of talked about when we met yesterday too. That we can look at other things. And I think the financial literacy component has a budgetary aspect to it, because you're going to need to say, okay, if we need to get 175 kids through this class in X amount of time, what is that going to look like? So things for us to consider as we're looking at our budgets moving forward, and what courses we're offering to students as well.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, next we have the second reading and vote on JEC, the school attendance, and J student absent.
So we looked at these for the first time at our meeting on the 10th. JEC, there was one change made to this. we're right underneath where it says excused absences on page 1. We moved the is the student's responsibility to obtain any makeup work from the teachers. That was at the bottom of the policy and we moved it up to the top so that way people wouldn't miss it. So that is 1.
So quick question. on that.
Yes, please.
Maybe this is just a weird thought, but teachers are required to buy that, right? For an excuse after. They can't just. So do that.
No, they provide the work and the majority of it, it's actually, of our teachers have it, everything through, Google Classroom. So it's, takes a little bit of that away. Yes, excused, yes. Unexcused, not, no. And not necessarily, not at the time either. So the days of you saying I'm going to Disney and my kid needs all of his work. Yeah.
So we've had this problem, obviously, hopefully with the school time change, eventually here we'll get through it, but a middle school kid who's playing some type of sport leaves, misses science class. Is that an excused absence?
It's unfortunately, yes, it's an excused class absence, right? I actually sat down, this is super off topic, but I actually sat down recently with Vinnie Hayward and Aaron, and we were looking at the bus times and the league times and how late can they leave in order to make it to where they need to go by X time. So that's something that we're looking at. And again, hopefully the time changes will help us in that regard.
So should we add an excused absence is athletics?
So we took out field trips
Okay.
and because we consider all of those things to be, you're here and in school and you're present.
Got
So I would say that falls kind of in that same realm of you're technically in schools, you're not necessarily absent. But the student still is still responsible for getting the work from that teacher.
And I don't know the schedules anymore, but they're not constantly missing.
No.
It's probably maybe once a week for 4 weeks, if that.
Yes, and
Maybe
so
2 games a week and.
and again, the way both at the middle school and the high school, the schedules rotate.
Yeah.
So if you have science first today, you might have Spanish first tomorrow, which means you're missing a different course in the afternoons as well. So depending on the sport itself, some, like when you get to baseball and softball season, they have multiple games per week versus football. It's just Friday nights. So.
Any other questions on JEC? Gotta vote this in.
You have to vote them separately, yes, please.
First, entertain a motion to approve policy as written JEC.
So. Yeah, you got it. Second.
All
Here
in
we go.
favor?
Aye.
Next, we have JH.
Okay, JH, there are no updates from the last time here. This is just looking at our student absence notification program, dropout prevention.
Questions on this one?
No.
Entertain a motion to approve JH. All those in favor?
Thank you.
I think it's G.
Next, we have.
All right, so tonight I am here to share my goals for the 2025-2026 school year. And this does require a vote. So there are 3 goals here. The first is under the district improvement category, strengthen instructional practice across the district by establishing clear feedback loops from the superintendent to principals and from principals to teachers, focused on learning targets and effective teaching strategies. And so I'm not going to read all of this to you. You guys are fully capable of doing that. So focusing on strengthening principal leadership in instruction, modeling instructional focus through classroom visits, ensuring timely and effective feedback to teachers, and then creating a feedback loop for continuous improvement. And the benchmarks will be 100% of principals will receive monthly instructional leadership feedback, a minimum of 4 joint visits with each principal throughout the year. And then what we'll do is we'll share those trends with the leadership team quarterly. And then my part of the goal is making sure that principals are meeting timelines and providing documented feedback to teachers within 5 school days of visits in at least 90% of the cases. This is required by our contract, so 95% of the cases should be a low target. Let's see what we. Second goal is around student learning, enhancing district systems to ensure equitable access to high quality learning opportunities by implementing year 1 of the strategic plan. This is our particular focus on building those effective data systems. So we have already started the building high impact teaching teams. This summer, all of our principals and central office administrators are all taking this course together with our teacher leaders in kindergarten through grade 12. It's been a great learning experience together. Also looking at using data to drive continuous improvement. Benchmarks, 100% of the year 1 action items from our strategic plan will all be initiated by June of 26. And I will offer public updates at least twice during the course of the year. 100% of the principals will participate in at least 2 data-focused professional learning sessions. We've already met that goal, which is really exciting. And then by spring of 26, implementing a district-wide dashboard tracking at least 3 consistent academic indicators. So this is going to part of our big focus that we've been working on with the RBT course and our teachers is that developing consistent structures and protocols. So we all worked together that first day. Everybody was all in the same room. It was right after our welcome back day and our PD day. And now we have an elementary cohort and a secondary cohort. And we've done 1 full day session since school began. We have another one at the end of this month, beginning of October. And we know that this is going to look different at the elementary level than it does at the middle school and high school. So doing those divisions of cohorts and having them plan together has been really valuable so far. And then finally, the third goal is around improving visibility and strengthening connections between the superintendent's office and students, staff, families, and the community by clearly communicating how district initiatives support improve student learning. So strengthening communication on our learning initiatives, really talking about the how and why, building family and community partnerships, and closing the feedback loop. Really sharing back how the input from our staff, students, and community are shaping what we're doing. And I kind of modeled this for our staff on the first day of school and said, hey, last year you guys all provided me with feedback on how I was doing. This is what I've taken from that, and this is how I develop my goals for this year. So publishing at least 1 district communication per month that's focused on our instructional priorities and student learning, holding at least 3 family and community engagement sessions throughout the course of the year, and then highlighting at least 2 examples during the year where stakeholder input directly influenced our decisions or initiatives. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and this does require a vote from the committee as well.
Questions? I think first off, since I've been on school committee, this is the most inclusive goal setting I've seen from any superintendent. 1, you can clearly see throughout it, it is all student focused. 1, that's always good. But 2, it took in a lot of what we talked about at the strategic planning meetings and put it actual goals on paper that make sense for what we were trying to do as a community. It has measurable goals. The benchmarks are great. This was, I feel like this was like the best thing I've read since being on school committee. So Jen, that's a huge kudos for you there. 1 comment is on benchmarks, it says 100% of, goal 1, 100% of principals receive monthly instructional feedback. Is that written? Is it verbal? I mean, I can give someone feedback in a hallway. Like, how do we, I guess, kind of what is your thinking just there?
Well, this is going to be new for us this year. So it might start with collaborative conversations when we're doing these walks and these visits and sharing with them, hey, I noticed that, or I really like the way that you, and then I think it will probably become a little bit more formalized as the year progresses, especially when we take a look at those joint visits and the way that we're visiting classrooms together and we're sharing what we see and sharing what we like and what concerns we have. I think that would probably be a little bit more formalized in terms of, you know, we met earlier this week. These are the things that we talked about. This is what we're gonna be looking for the next time. That's how I see it going. And to be honest, Nick, it's gonna be new for us. So we'll see what works and what doesn't.
I would just say, we have a saying at work, especially from the safety department, that you don't write it down, it didn't happen. So, I mean,
Good or bad?
so I would, because I was managing that. So, and I think, to me, and not that our principals will do this, but I just don't want it to be a situation like, yeah, we never talked. So that way at least, and it doesn't have to be anything formal or go into their file and just say, hey, even just like a little review of what you did when you met with them, just a little one page. To me, I come from the documentation world, so I would say probably formalize it, but it's up to you, it's your rules. Any other questions, comments?
I should agree with Nick, it's great, love the memorable goal.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the superintendent's goals as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Open it.
All right, next we have the Norton Middle School Youth Project.
All right. Well, everyone's here tonight. All right, bring our presenters over. We have a couple different things for you. Number one, Christine is going to share the slides that they are going to share with you tonight. And I apologize, we had them for you earlier, but then we had a couple tweaks that we made this afternoon. So this is the updated. And I also shared with you a couple things that we pulled together in the last few hours in terms of a timeline. And then I also included a memo from 2006 that I thought was valuable for you. Thank you. Ethical, yep. Mhm. So I just want to introduce James, who is our OPM, and Jay from Ty and Bond. So I will really turn it over to them. They know that we have a lot of questions for them tonight, and we're hoping for some clarity. So thank you guys so much for coming out. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having us. Given the time, and we'll try to make it brief. We actually, we have a slide deck. You guys see it there. It answers, we tried to anticipate, but it's mostly a hopefully backup. We're trying to think got town meeting coming on October 20th. Whatever questions, whatever answers we're trying to provide you for that time so that, so you can confidently advocate for the projects or not. So that's what we're here for tonight.
Yeah, and I think the presentation we put together, it's not that many slides, but it kind of talks to like the condition of the roof, kind of how the process we go through, and what the restoration process looks like and the investigative process they go through. And then the last slide is all the dollars and cents. So we can, if you want to go through all the slides, we can step through them and give you that information. We can go to the slide at the end and start talking about the dollars and cents and double back on the other slides. We're open to however people want to proceed.
I think for me personally, and I think we discussed this a little bit last week, and we're talking about to me, it's a significant project, but I guess, and I haven't gone through all the way, but what does a replacement versus a restoration look like cost wise? Because my concern is, this building is 25 some odd years old.
27 years old.
And, it seems to have issues for 27 years. So I guess I just don't want to go, half in because we're trying to save a little money versus go full in maybe for a little bit more. So do we have those numbers, what that looks like?
Yeah, looking.
Restoration versus replacement?
Yeah, and again, we're at the schematic design phase, so we're really early in the process with numbers and everything. But using numbers from another school that we're working on right now in the city of Gardner, that's kind of a comparable school that's doing a full replacement. And taking the cost estimate information that we had and kind of taking out the restoration costs, and plugging in full replacement costs for the portion of the roof that would get changed to full restoration is about 2.1 million added to go to full full replacement instead of restoration.
Can you, just so everyone can understand exactly what we're talking about, what does a restoration mean and what does a replacement mean? In terms of two separate things.
Yep.
One, what does it actually mean? And two, what does it look like from a construction standpoint? Of how long, what is this gonna take? Are we gonna be all come September first and being like, oh, we don't have a roof on the middle school side?
Yeah, to answer that last question, that's one of the benefits of going on restoration versus replacement because the process is faster. So you can shorten your construction schedule and there's a better chance they come, mid-August, you're in a good spot versus pushing into September. Do you want to back up a couple slides? There's a slide that talks about going back, this one right here. So the big difference on the restoration is the first thing they do, and we did this already. Some consulting company, they do a big infrared scan of the whole roof to look for areas, they do it at night to look for areas of wet insulation. I should go back one more slide because I kind of scan it right there. So all the red areas are the places where they found wet insulation. So those areas all have to be completely removed, cut out, completely removed, down to the decking, check the decking. The decking's bad, you have to replace the decking. And then they put, a full new EPDM roof back up to the surface in those spots. And those account for about 10%, right? 9.4% of the roof area. The rest of the roof area, that's EPDM. Now remember, these areas here, metal, all this front is all metal. That's full replacement. That's not restoration. So we're just talking about the EPDM portions, the remainder of the roof. For the restoration, they come in, they pressure wash it, they check all of the leaks and things, they patch all the visible holes that they can see in the EPDM, and then flip one more slide. They come in with, it's a 3-part process. They put down a base layer, like a fluid base layer. There's like a geotextile scrim that goes in there. And then they put another top coat over the top of that. And that goes all over the roof. You're not changing slopes or anything. Up the curbs, the HVAC equipment's removed, the restoration goes up the curbs. And then that's your final roof surface. So the existing EPDM remains, and they put this 3-part, coating system over the top of it. So that's the process. It's a 20, they offer 20-year warranty. Claim it's good for 25 years. They come out and inspect it at no cost yearly, to check if there's any issues. Trying to think, like I said, metal roof areas are all full replacement with brand new metal roof.
So a replacement of that little graph in the bottom corner. You're telling me that lasts 20 years?
20 years. Yep.
Okay, so
There's 1 year. Well, they give you a 20-year warrant, up to a 20-year warranty on it.
That's right.
They say that it lasts, they claim a minimum 25.
Okay, so in 25 years, we're gonna be sitting here in that time probably asking for 25 million from the taxpayers?
Not sure how you get 25.
Well, I mean.
No, you mean
it's 12 million to make, so but now it's costing us.
I'm not
8 to 10 million.
Well, I think
to do the roof.
the warranty is 20. They claim it lasts at least 25, right? At the end of 25 years, does it completely fail? Probably not. I don't
So
think.
residential, and I know residential roof's very different, but you're getting at least 30 to 35 guaranteed warranty on those.
We get that. Yep.
But you're also not replacing it at year 36 potentially.
You're getting 50, 60 if you take care of it.
A full replacement, and we would have to, if we went full replacement, you have, in the documents, you can either get a 20, 25, or 30-year warranty.
I guess.
Obviously, it's more expensive. So they're only offering you can get up to a 30-year warranty on a full replacement.
I guess my concern here is we've had an issue with this type of roof for 27 years. Why are we going to put the exact same damn thing down on the same roof that we've had the same issues with?
It's
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I think the restoration is a different material. But even if we go with replacement, you'd probably still be looking at an EPDM. You could potentially go with like a PVC or a TPO. But I think you'd probably still lean EPDM, even if we go to a full replacement.
If you
I
went,
don't think it's so much the EPDM material that is giving the problems. Maybe it was workmanship when it went in originally, maintenance, the whole host of different reasons. There's a ton of equipment up there that's been worked on and replaced over the years that could have, caused problems and leaks. And I don't think it's an EPDM material because that's used, worldwide for roofs all over the place.
So I guess, one of the questions kind of piggybacking on Nick, like even a full replacement for, $2 million more, we still have all the weird angles and all that we'd have to contend
Correct.
with to replace. Like, we can't completely just take the roof off of this building, redesign the whole thing.
No,
Okay.
no, and that's part of, there's 21 different, people have been up there, there's 21 different roof sections and there's so many ladders up and down all over the place. So that's a factor that makes it a little more expensive roof to replace, just given the geometry of it.
part of that 2 million also is when we're replacing this. When we're only putting the restoration, we can leave it as it is, at its current height. And all we're doing is we're adding an inch layer on top of it. That's what this layer is doing. If we went full replacement, we're now having to meet today's code. And so now we're gonna have to have a little bit higher insulation and a little higher stuff, which means now you're protecting all of the edges. You have on the interior of the building, on the inside, let's say this is the roof and then this is like where a window is right now. Well, we need to raise the roof up. We're losing, more and more that we may even have to, if we do roof replacement, we may even have to raise the window up in that case. So there's, it's,
So that's part of the $2 million add.
yes,
Is when you do a full replacement, right, you've got to meet the new stretch energy codes. You're increasing insulation, which is pushing your roof closer to your flashing. And you want to maintain a minimum of 8 inches.
Right.
You'd really like to have 12 inches from all your through wall flashing. So now to move your through wall flashing up, you have to start taking out brick masonry because all that flashing is through wall and brick masonry on the building. And potentially, I think around the rotunda area, there were some really low windows that potentially.
exactly. That's what I'm referring to.
So that all added insulation, the added demolition cost, because, you're removing 90% of, another 90% of the roof area, so you've got to remove and dispose of all the insulation and existing materials, and then just things like masonry.
And let's just
It's
say,
part of that 2.1 million.
it was Garland that looked at it.
Garland, yeah, the restoration.
Garland, the roof manufacturer, looked at it and, they're the ones who have to warranty this thing. So they're the one who came out and said, okay, is this roof a good candidate? Is this something that we can warranty for the next 20, 30 years? And they, their report is in the submission.
In the schematic.
But, so it is a good candidate for this so that we don't have to do it the other way, which we already know the known issues, having to raise up windows and do all this brick through wall flashing and raise up the edges of the, and increasing the trim on the edge flashings.
So is this a restoration of just those areas in red that we saw?
No.
But it's the whole.
Every time.
Wood insulation typically loses its property to insulate. So that's why we always, the standard practice is to remove that down to deck and put new insulation in.
Yeah.
Cover it over the EPDM and then put down this whole, by the way, this is a monolithic coating now. This is versus EPDM, it's heat welded. So there's, sections that are heat welded and, well, how well does the guy heat weld that? This is literally one monolithic pour. It's a liquid pour that's getting put on and then cures.
Yeah, instead of having multiple seams.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, all the red areas would come out and I think they cut it back a minimum of 12 inches beyond, where they find it in insulation. And then they check the roof deck, and if the roof deck is rotted because it's been wet, that gets replaced before they come through.
So what about, obviously, one of the things we're struggling with is the high cost, but what type of, a lack of a better term, guarantee that this doesn't skyrocket? If they find rotted decking or anything like that, like, is that all those contingencies built into this?
Yeah, that would be taken care of as part of the contingency. So that's a good segue to go to
to the end here. What we tried to do here is recent, I'll say recent, as people know, the accelerated repair program went on pause for a few years. So the top two schools are two of the latest schools that we did, you know, the Herbert Clark School in Loker, and then John at the Wareham School. So what we tried to show here is, there's the year, this is the size of the schools. This is what the schematic design construction cost was, which would correlate with the 8.6 million
That's
that we have for this. So we're talking apples to apples. This is what the actual construction cost bids came in at. And we had another school that we did back in 2021. And when I looked at the three of them, when we looked at schematic design cost versus actual cost, when we did the final construction documents, the bid costs were about 70% of the schematic design cost. Because you got to remember, we're schematic design now, the carrying design contingency, all kinds of contingencies, because we've only done schematic design, conceptual design. There's still, you know, we're 20% of the way there. We need to do another 80% of design to get to construction documents. So as you go to 60%, your design contingency and the other contingencies will come down. So we would expect to see bid costs, hopefully, you know, in the 70% of where we are with schematic design costs right now.
So that's a good segue. Why aren't we showing 7% lines? This is an MSBA process. This is a project, and this is not public procurement, certainly not private residential. We got a prevailing wage study here too. But the MSBA, we follow their process in order to get the MSBA is a reimbursement program, for lack of better words. You know, Norton has a 55% reimbursement rate. So we expect to get, you know, the 55% of whatever numbers we're showing before contingency. Contingency is a separate animal. But the way the process works is they ask for this number and this scope to be presented to them at the schematic design level, not at 100% CDs like we're probably used to. So we still have 3.5 months of design and contingencies to boot to cover those. Benefit is also, well, we have the MSBA locked in and agreeing to this number at this time. So when the costs come in low, as they historically have, you know, we're guaranteed. What we're doing is we're trying to fend off against if the number's higher. If we go in with a lower number, anything over the number that you agreed with the MSBA, that's 100% on you guys. So if the bid comes in over 200,000 more, that's 200,000. You don't get the 55% back on that.
So if you're trying to cut it too close, and you do run into a situation where you're finding, you know, anyway you slice it, every project has some change orders on it. When you find those things, if it pushes you what you agreed to at the beginning with MSBA, they don't reimburse you on that cost. So the trick is to be high enough when you're setting your, you know, initial budget that you don't get caught on the backside.
And budget is the key word here. This 9.9, this 8.6 is not your final cost. This is your budget. This is what you're agreeing. This is primary purpose right now is to agree with the MSBA. This is what our starting point that they're going to honor and meet us with, you know, costs up to that point. We have now, like I said, 60%. There will be an estimate at the 60% CDs. There'll be a month and a half. Now we're going to estimate the project again, and we're going to, you know, presumably it will drop. And then we have another 2 months of design. And so in mid-February is when we're going to go out, hit the street and get real bids, public bids, you know, low bidder. There's nothing, that's the way Massachusetts works. It's low bid. You don't get the job unless you're low bid. So,
so I know we have this number for the MSBA and so on and so forth. Is there any way the two of you could project, and project is a nice one for guess. What do you think, in your professional opinions, this final bid might look like? I know it's the whole, you know, the lowest bid, but like, what do you think? Like, we're at 9 some odd million. Do you think it's like 7 million might be the final cost? Or is there any way to even think about that?
I think I'd take that 8.6 and I'd take 70% of it, but then you'd have to add, that's just construction costs. Then you'd have to add in like the design, the soft costs.
But that is only 10% of the cost. So 90% is still unknown of this, you know.
So
the MSBA asks,
if you did the math,
yeah.
57.
Yeah.
So I could give you that kind of estimate of it, but you wouldn't want to, you know, sign on the dotted line.
Exactly.
No,
No, and
because you don't know what
We
can
don't-
change, material
Exactly.
costs, labor shortage. It was a few years ago with the whole, you couldn't get insulation for any roofs.
Yeah.
You know, material
That was the middle
shortages,
of
when
COVID,
all the
yeah.
boats were stuck out, all kinds of things can pop up that can affect, screw up the project.
Well, MSBA covered a restoration and or a replacement that we can do, and they'll do 55%.
I don't know if we can pick, but it would be.
I would say yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
we
look,
can
look.
pick, yes.
You had that option, but again, now we're talking, you want to pay. We're pushed for time right now. That's what we're getting at. We've already
Right, so the
submitted the restoration.
recommendation is the restoration.
Exactly.
We haven't said we want to do the restoration. I think,
No, I think we have to the MSBA, told them we want to do the restoration. Well, I mean, because it's 2.1 cheaper and it meets all of the goals of the roof. So, you know,
But I wonder, like, I think the answer to the question is they'll fund either one of them,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
So I think if you were to say, you know what, we don't want to do the restoration, we want to do we want to move forward with the full replacement. It may get into some of the things we were talking about this afternoon with MSBA, like a delay or
That's right.
or a waiver because we would have to go back and revise the documents to show full replacement versus.
I mean, I think, just to be completely honest with you, I think a delay is inevitable. Like, I don't think this project going through anytime soon to get this thing done for next summer. Like, I just feel like that's kind of where we're at. However, you never know with the people voting. But to me, it's almost worth exploring the idea. If you're telling me that number could come in and what the numbers up top of those three other schools came in at, I mean, 7.5 million to 4 million. That's a significant amount of difference. That, yes, it's adding 2.1 million. However, if we get some experts to know, hey, this would actually be the way to go and replace this whole thing, rip everything out rather than just going over it, you might get a little bit more buy-in to be like, hey, this is gonna get done and done right. We're not just, I hate to say this, putting a Band-Aid on something that we know is already at problem.
For those replacement areas, the examples you have above, were those full roof replacements?
Correct.
They weren't restorations, they were.
And to be, you know, the MSBA only recently, they did not allow restorations before this. The MSBA did not. It was not an option.
This
They
is the
didn't-
first
They
time.
finally woke up and said, hey, this is a good thing, and we'll be backing. And so-
Yeah, this is the first year that we've been involved with the program.
Right.
MSBA said as part of the schematic design, you have to consider restoration and full replacement.
And to be clear, you know, this is not the first year that it hasn't been done, that it's been done. No, restoration's been done for 15, 20 years. Just not on an MSBA project. That wasn't part of the program.
yeah,
So you obviously seem very familiar with MSBA.
Yes.
Is there a potential that MSBA can do this in waves or not? Like with the, hypothetically, let's just say we did this in over 3 phases, over 3 years.
Yeah.
Not that I want to go down that road, but again, thinking of options here of what could happen. Could we do next summer? It's gonna cost us 2 million to get on the major red areas where we have internal leaking into cafeterias, into gymnasiums. That's phase 1. Phase 2 would be summer of 27, again, hypothetically here. We hit the next secondary problems. Phase 3, this one. Will MSBA, like they'll break those costs up over a 3-year project?
so
We need to
we
present
asked that question today.
Okay.
And so, yes. But, so what we would need to do is we would need to go back to the MSBA and change the scope of our project. So we would say we're only going to do the metal roof component now. We would need to change that with them, make sure that we were all set and move forward. Then you would need to reapply through the process. The next opportunity for you to reapply would be 2027, because they're only going to do the accelerated repair for windows, doors, and roofs every other year. So then we would go out and say, okay, now we want to do the EDM.
EPD.
Whatever.
The rubber.
Gonna be like, yeah, something like that. And so then you would do that part separately. I don't, and again, not a roofer, and I'll defer to the gentleman here, but I would imagine that if it's the monolithic pour, you probably would not be able to pour certain areas, like you probably, I mean, as again, there's 21 different sections of roof. So you might say, hey, we're gonna do these 15 this year, we're gonna do these, whatever. But it would involve, you would need to be accepted into the program multiple times in order to get them to do the reimbursement.
And
If
if
that makes sense.
percentage rate could potentially change each time.
Correct.
Thank you.
Will it ever go up? Like hypothetically, if we were like, hey, this is a real emergency problem here with these big leaks that we do have.
Yep.
Would he come back and say, hey, we'll give you 80% for that? That is a problem?
No,
No.
it's not how that works. It's,
It's a set rate for everyone involved in the program in each year. So every single school that's involved in this 2024 class is the 55.6.
Oh, so they don't triage.
No.
no, they don't triage, and it's really based on your community and town's economic, they have all these factors, so. Basically between 30 and 80%. So if you're, I don't want to name names, if you're Newton or something like that, you're 30%. If you're somewhere.
Fall River.
Holyoke, Lawrence, Fall River, New Bedford, they're 80%. You guys are right in the middle. So, they have it where it's pretty much equality or whatever, so.
So I wouldn't think Norton would change that.
No,
You know, your-
Exactly.
Your community
We're
wouldn't
roughly
change
in that.
that much to affect
We're staying
everything.
So I guess, if we do the multiple year, that would also, if it's every other year, so you're talking, this could be potentially a 5-year project. You'd have to redo this schematic design every time. Which would be an added cost every time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And on
you'd have
top
to
of that,
re-up.
Materials go up.
Well, that's exactly,
Year
that's the
3.
problem.
It's gonna, yes.
We're using a 5%. Oh, sorry.
And we're chancing even on accepting.
Agreed.
And I was on that call. I didn't get the warm and fuzzies from them about like, oh, yeah.
Which is not a problem.
You can do that. Like, it did not seem like they were very open to that.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a yes button, right?
We
We
have
not
done
recommend.
partial roof replacement projects for under the accelerated repair, but it started that way. Like the SOI that went in, the
Mhm.
school said, hey, we redid this part of the roof 5 years ago. Now we want to do this 50,000 square foot piece. And it starts, so I think that's the process you would be starting to.
And just if
It's
you
a
can,
new project.
if you can imagine, you're having a contractor come in and, mobilize and demobilize and mobilize and demo. There's costs associated with that. This project, the Wareham, I noticed this was done over 2 summers. This had the unfortunate, they submitted and said the roof was 20 years old. And then when they went and checked the documents, like, well, only 2/3 of it was 20 years old, and the other third was like 18 or whatever. It just didn't fit. And so the MSBA said, well, we'll reimburse you on the 2/3, but not the 1/3. Guess which side leaked? The 1/3. And so the town, well, they had to get that done, and they had this large number. They had, this large number. It was like 8.6 total project budget. And they were concerned. And so, presenting that. And so they did split it up, but it was, now they had, it was over 2 summers. And so, while yes, it's cheaper here, they were still spending more. Because, they had them come in, do 1/3 one summer. You had the OPM and the designer there for 1 summer. They had them there another year. Us being there for another year, that's additional cost. And then you had the contractor coming back. Thank goodness we had the same contractor. He won the low bid twice. We got lucky there.
I still don't know how you got that big.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But in terms of that bid price, someone pointed to that as one thing to note, Wareham didn't have metal. The thing here that we've got the metal,
That's
full replacement on the metal roof, which is.
It's metal.
Roof is.
Didn't have as many sections.
Yeah.
Didn't have the rotunda,
What is the warranty cost on the replacement warranty timeline for the metal itself? Because we're saying
the same.
it's a
It's
20-year for a restoration.
50?
I would say
Yeah.
I don't know the exact answer. It's at least 25 years. It could be higher.
It's usually longer than rubber. Because
So we'd have 2 warranties on just the different sections.
You have that anyway.
Yeah, you'd probably.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, the
Yeah,
metal's
no,
our biggest problem.
Right. And that was the thing that they solved. I mean, I think you guys looked at this, Matt did, just the way it was installed, the joints, well, they've come up with better systems now, like a triple joining or something. I can't describe it fully, but what you're getting put back is not the same metal roof.
It's how you attach your snow guards and things like that.
Yeah.
Reduce the penetrations.
Right.
It's a newer system.
Can we go to the moisture survey?
Yep.
So, as
It's okay, guys.
we go back to that short,
if we think about splitting this project up, like, which I mean, it sounds like that's probably not the most feasible option, to spread it out. But looking at this, like, we don't really have like an extensive problem area. It looks like there's multiple, like, if we do section one, that only helps a little bit, like, it doesn't have a whole, like a larger
See, you
section.
got problems all over.
Yes.
And this doesn't include, like, the moisture survey wasn't done on the metal roof, obviously, it was just on the EPDM areas. So that, so it doesn't show the leaks in the.
So that's why you're not seeing the leaks in the cafeteria that exists.
That's
Thank you.
yeah.
Because I'm like, why? Yeah,
That's what.
that makes sense.
That's what, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, real quick, if we can
Thank you.
explain it, it really is, they call it infrared, but it's the heat.
Yes, it's
almost
the
like
heating, you're not
Yeah,
getting heat off the.
and so you can see those bright red spots. They come in right at night, so when the temperature changes difference, where it's lower
Yeah, so you're
temperature,
not gonna see.
you can't get that with the metal.
No. burns
So
off.
the gray is the metal roof.
Correct.
All this in the
Yeah.
The
front.
white is all.
Yeah, because I was wondering why we were not seeing the leak.
So in Jen, to your point, the metal roof is giving us more problems.
Which is
And
getting
it
fully
makes-
replaced.
What's the blue?
That's
solar
just
panels.
solar panels.
When did those go on?
Yeah. It's right here.
They were, the bill was about 1998.
98 they were putting them.
Yeah, and it's been recommended that they're removed, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
So I guess, another kind of major question here, we learned this last week. The company that did this roof is no longer, and was no longer in business shortly after they did this roof. Are these companies or these materials, like, they've been around, they're hopefully going to be around, like, there's not that danger again that, just roofing company is going out of business after they do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the way the industry works is that you have a roofing manufacturer, the Garland, the Tremco, a Carlisle, Johns Mansville. There's ones who are actually warrantying it for the long haul. They're warrantying their materials and the craftsmanship. The installer, the guy who went out of business, we typically require a 2-year workmanship warranty that he's on the hook for. But that's kind of like in addition to the.
Within those 2 years, if you find leaks
Exactly.
or like flashing,
Yeah.
right, they have to come back.
So you are covered for those 30 years by the manufacturer, in this case would be Garland.
Yeah.
And you call them up, they'll call up whoever is
Well,
there.
it could be gone, because this would be.
That's true. I'm
It's
sorry.
like, could be
It's publicly bid and 3 options. Thank you.
So-
Sorry, I can fire.
Hi, okay, so I have this packet from our last meeting. I don't know if you have this, because I have several questions off of this.
He created it,
What
so.
was the?
This is the, from August 28th, 2025.
Yeah, that's our schematic design.
That's the design.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We can speak to it.
Okay, so, my first question is, so again, it's specific to certain pages. So, 1.7 at the beginning, is the HVAC assessment of the equipment summary.
Yep.
And you had listed here what was considered poor, fair, good. And then and then later on, it was discussed about replacing, 5 of them. It was suggested of the ones that were listed here. So, but it didn't, yeah, here, 1-17, it says install
Yep.
5 new exhaust fans and equipment curbs. So which 5? The ones that were rated as poor? The oldest ones? Which 5 were you looking at?
I'd have to look at it and look at the plans to check the numbers, but in general, I would say the ones that have either failed and weren't working or poor condition.
Okay, so not based off of age. So is
Probably
there
not. I
a
would say-
potential?
I wouldn't say
No.
based off of age. I think it was ones that weren't working or were in poor condition
Okay.
related for.
So,
replacement.
because the ones that were mostly rated as poor, they're dated 2022. So now that means that we're sitting on these 1997 ones that,
No, that's not accurate, because
Okay.
Wade and I had this conversation
Okay, that's
as
why-
well.
Yep.
And I don't want to give exact, so I said the same thing to Wade. I'm like,
Yeah.
if we just replaced these in 2022, why in the world are they being rated poor?
yeah,
And my understanding, and Wade, please jump in if I'm wrong. Something itself was replaced, but there is still a component of it, or it was, do you remember what I'm talking about?
so shaking.
Yeah, because it was HVAC, something from 1997, and I was like, okay, well, if that one's fine, but the 2022 one is not, I had significant concerns about that.
Would have been part of the training project.
Correct.
Placed in the exhaust. I don't think that doesn't.
So I think that's maybe what the conversation was. The unit itself was replaced, but the exhaust fan connected to it was still from 1997. Does that?
Correct. We've upgraded our controls over there on all units, but training, HVAC equipment, not the exhaust.
Okay, so the exhausts are considered still 97.
Yes.
So that 2022 is not accurate. Okay.
And I could get, as part of this process, our mechanical engineers come out and visit the site and go through the evaluation of all that. So I can get you further information on that too, if you have questions that I can't answer.
Yeah, great, thank you. So then my next question was, there was testing done, regarding the airflow and the air quality, so. But then it states on 1-17 rebalancing system to match pre-existing airflows, but, if the airflow was rated and considered as poor, why would we want to restore? Would we want to balance?
I think you check the units, they check the airflow. They check what the original airflow is supposed to be, like based on the design of the unit.
Yeah.
That gets recorded, the units get taken off. When all the units go back on as part of a project, the mechanical contractor has to go back and balance.
Okay, so the
And-
balance will occur.
Yes.
Just be,
Yep.
you're gonna go back to the poor quality that was.
No, that's the
No.
intent, is that when they go back up, the whole system is rebalanced.
Okay. And then page 3 of appendix A. 1.1, the assumptions. We have a confirmation on those assumptions. So the report was prepared under the following assumptions. If any of these assumptions are inaccurate, JSCE should be notified so that the report can be updated to reflect actual conditions. So is that confirmation? been
Which
done
part
or-
of the JSC, which part of the, was that still the mechanical?
So it's.
This is part of the code
Mhm,
report.
mhm.
Outstanding code violations on file with the city of Norton Inspectional Services. Accessibility complaints, construction costs not exceed, I can say that one is correct.
Okay.
So I can verify,
Yeah,
looking,
if I can-
looking at them, I would say that those assumptions are still correct, but I could verify.
Yeah, you could verify those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very much.
And I would like to maybe reiterate, especially with something like that, that is a schematic design. Again, we're not 100% CD. These things would be fleshed out as we continue on. So
And then,
it is expected, to be at this level, those level of assumptions.
on page 5, appendix A. Says level 1 alterations required to maintain the level of safety provided by the existing conditions. Will this, if we decided to go with the overlay restoration?
Yep.
Does it fall under that level 1?
Yes, level 1 restoration. Yep.
Also on 5, under 5.1, re-roofing, the installation of a new roof covering over an existing roof covering is permitted when any conditions occur. So, yeah, we anticipate. Okay, I think that question's.
I was gonna say, I actually read
That's
that
been-
section
yep.
today for some.
Yeah, so that's been answered.
There and looked at those and thought, yeah, we need all those for the re-roofing if we want to do the restoration.
Do we have a concern in terms of current air quality and safety in the building regarding any mold that could potentially be in there due to all of this leakage and retention of this water in the insulation?
Don't know if I can answer that question.
Okay.
It's outside the purview.
That's outside the purview.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think your air
I think-
quality testing and.
yeah, thanks.
We have no current issues over there at
Okay.
the moment. We're doing a good job taking care of what we need to take care of.
Right.
I did, order some air quality and mold tests that we done over there this week. I share the results back on those next week.
Great.
We usually rotate and try to hit a school every year and pick 5 or 6 locations, other than those big locations. Just to have that on record.
Okay,
So those are done last week.
great, thank you so much. And then I think my last thing was just, which this is very up in the air because we're talking about potential different projects and ideas. It's, we know how these projects go. once we finally have settled on something and we are given a timeline, what kind of guarantee do you offer regarding staying within that timeline or deviating off of that timeline? Especially because it's a functioning school and a working, environment, like, so if you're saying, yes, we will have part A of this project done by, because in here, the timeline, the timeline in here, which I know is just, theoretical, said that, you have X, Y, and Z done by 8/31. Like, are you guaranteeing that? Is that maybe, like, how solid are your timelines when you do create them?
I would say like on the design side of things, what we control, those are pretty solid. We
Okay.
could, we usually have enough time in the schedule to hit our design, and when we want to get out to bid and get contractor bids and things, barring any crazy situation. In terms of the actual construction, there's a schedule that's given to the contractor that the contractor bids on that he has to meet, and the contract will include liquidated damages.
Yeah, yeah.
If they don't meet that schedule, I'd be lying if I stood here and said like every single project we've done, these summer slammers are perfect on August 31st.
Right.
There have been some where find like an unforeseen condition or something changes and it delays the project, and so you
We do,
can't
so there is
guarantee that.
the liquidated damages built into.
There is
Yes.
liquidated
Yeah.
damages.
It's, as the OPM, it's typically my job to manage the schedule. And
Yep.
I've been doing 30 of these accelerated repairs. I'm very familiar, as you've been doing probably as many.
Yeah.
We know the summer, it's 44 working days. So we're very, we're on top of it. And
The trick is staying on it, because
Yeah.
on a lot of schools I've worked on, the contractor ends up having to work at night and double shifts and work weekends
Yeah.
to try to.
To
get
stay
it.
within.
we pull all the levers. Yeah, exactly. You do.
Um,
We know that school is not moving. It's September, it's the day after Labor Day.
Yeah, it's late.
And teachers come back the week before. And so, this is a roof, but.
I guess that's the other question I was kind of thinking about is as these timelines are in place, like we know, like teachers are here a week before, not necessarily students, but is this work? Like, are we at a point in the work schedule, like, August 31st, where we could still have the building occupied and they could still be working? Like, it's not like a safety issue or anything like that?
Yes, there's usually an overlap exactly, especially with the MSB program, if you remember, it's not just roofs, it's also doors and windows. It used to be
Yeah,
boilers.
we had one of those a few years back.
Exactly. So, certainly you can imagine windows would be far more invasive if teachers trying to set up her classroom and working in the windows. That just doesn't fly. Being on the roof, it's quite separated, and considering that this is a roof restoration, you're not dealing with what we call rip and replace, that you're not going all the way down to the deck, getting up all that insulation, and putting it back down. So, it should be far less, noise, the
Lot less lifting materials
Yeah.
on and off the roof.
there's
I
that.
think where some of them have run over for whatever reason. Thankfully, a lot of times the main roofing is done and they're just working on like edge metal and edge trim and things, and you can kind of move them around the different areas to stay out of people's way.
Another thing to think about is, this, like I said, it was 1998. That was 27 years ago, 28 years ago.
27 years ago.
Thank you. Whereas we normally deal with schools built in the 70s, built in the 50s. So, so insulation from 30 years ago on this roof is really not that bad. And it should be meeting the energy code standards far closer than a school from the 70s. So that's another factor why we're leaning towards restoration being a good option, because the insulation up there, I mean, yes, the wet stuff is good, but 10%. While you saw a lot of red, it really was only 10%. Why would you, if you're doing replacement, you're pulling up all of that insulation, putting it all back, that takes time on my 44 days that I only got. So anyway.
So you actually got to my next question. So we have 7,132 square feet, which is 9.4% of the roof areas was identified to have wet insulation present. Next bullet point, industry standard is maximum 25 wet to qualify for restoration. So why? That's almost, call it 15%. I know we have problems here, but why are we qualifying for restoration?
I think the way that's read is 25 maximum. So we're under that threshold. Like if you had a school that was 30% wet, that would not qualify.
Yeah, it wouldn't be worth it at that point. They said, take it.
They'd say, take the whole thing off.
And that also doesn't, is that percentage, that doesn't include the metal, right? Or is
Does
it-
not include the.
No.
Right, so it could be, like, does that metal get put into the assessment once it starts, we start pulling up?
No, because we're considering,
No.
the metal's gonna be full replacement.
Right, okay. all right,
This is
got it, got
just for the, because the restoration can only happen on the, yeah.
it. And then the one other little piece was, and I think Christine confirmed this for me, but I just wanted to put it out there anyway. The contingency in here is awfully close based on the percentage of cost of the building to the cost of the replacement, minus not including the asbestos assessment, which obviously that 200,000 should get rolled into it, that 500, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a slightly higher contingency. It's a little bit better than what the original schematics is, right? Okay. All right, that was it. I'm done. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Nick?
Nope.
I saw you still thumping. I just didn't want to cut you off before you got to the end.
We thought this was telling. I mean, we've all had, well, had the pleasure of having our roof done. In Massachusetts, prevailing wage is, it's the requirement. We have to meet the union standards, and it's basically what it comes to, and so that's what this follows, and that's a high cost. So just try not to, if you're talking to your neighbors, I just got my roof done for X, well, it's not a public job. That's getting done. And I think one final thing here, since we're here, the MSBA process. So here was that 9.4. Again, this is, already told you a little bit about it, excluding contingency. This is basically what they're agreeing to in terms of cost. That's what I'm trying to say. This is, now we're getting into the MSBA and what they're willing to reimburse. This is almost, I don't want to say guaranteed, but almost guaranteed. And so they're saying estimated max 5.2 is what they're is. So their town share, you subtract the 2, that's what it would be. Then they have this whole block down here because they treat the contingency use separate. Why? Because you can have an owner that goes spend heavy, going, hey, let me fix the building while we're here. And those are owner changes, and the MSBA won't participate because that's beyond the scope that they agreed to way back in September. And so, but if there's an unforeseen condition, they would participate in that. So I leave this, I advise my clients, don't look at this. It's a little bit of a higher number, but don't expect it. And again, these numbers, these are maximums. This is as if you'd spend out every dollar on the project. We magically, all of our contracts equal 9.4, they would share 5.2. Coming at 7, this is going to drop too, but so is also your town share as well. Yeah, proportionately. Any questions on that?
We'll caveat that with, unless the owner decides they want to have a whole bunch of things, right?
Well, that's what
Yes, because we've had that, where it's like, hey, you know what, we gonna look at these bathrooms, let's put,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So, your expert opinion, if you say it's 70%, that town share is probably more around 3 million than it is 4.2 million.
I can't do the math, but yeah,
I think
yes.
You're saying if the
I
bids
used to
come
calculate
in.
it on my phone, but
Yeah.
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 Well, we can't guarantee that, we can't, you know what I mean, that's where it's schematic.
But if anything,
Based on experience with previous projects that I looked at.
and based on experience, we've never been, that high of this number. This number is, again, it's not the construction cost, it's the budget number we're agreeing with the MSBA on. And then it goes to the market, then it goes to Capeway, whoever, the roofers.
Now, do you see, like, obviously, it's just about the end of September. This goes out to bid probably February.
Yep.
Do you anticipate a marketable changing costs, materials, those 4-month events?
Not that we've seen. No, it's a great question. Had you asked that in the middle of COVID, we would have had a different answer. I was calling up the insulation manufacturer myself and just, can you guarantee us we're gonna get this summer? But no, we haven't had that in a while. We're pretty stable in terms of materials.
Unless something goes completely sideways, that we're not expecting.
Exactly.
The administration or something,
Right.
it's,
All of these tariffs, I don't think, I don't think we've seen it have a dramatic effect on it, on our costs. If they are, they're built into the cost estimate, you know, our cost estimator's on top of that stuff, so. But, you had another question,
I think Terrace Park built into it, just to make sure you know.
no.
I think there's a caveat at the end that says it doesn't, or on one of the first sheets, it says it doesn't include impact payers. Because they
Oh,
can't,
okay.
because they can't.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm
I
just
think
saying we
it's-
haven't seen
It's
it.
built
Yeah.
into, I would,
The bidder's cost.
yeah, but I would say it's built into the contingency that they've carried.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even though they're saying that it's not in it.
Yeah, lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No.
I interrupted you.
Anything else? Thank you for your time.
Sure. If you have any other questions, I think, you can reach out to Dan. Judy,
Yeah,
whatever
jot them
email.
down and pass them along.
Like I said, we.
And you'll get that.
live in town
confirmed.
too.
I will look at, yeah, at the assumptions.
Yes,
Members
yes.
and so-
Thank you.
No, I think that maybe the other thing that was important with the MSBA call today is we talked about the solar component. So MSBA requires all projects that come through now to have a solar ready component of a big area. So, the gym roof is already solar ready. So what we did is we confirmed with them that as long as we update anything that's there, if you had to like make sure like replace a switch or, you know, cap things off, that would still be considered solar ready and it would be a minimal cost to us over and above anything that we might need to do versus needing to create a new solar ready space. We do not have to do that, which is actually a huge win.
That's what I was
For
gonna
us,
say. It was a great win.
It was a great win for us. So we were a little bit.
Even if the solar system doesn't work.
It's just saying that.
Yeah.
Right.
We're removing the panels,
Yes.
but
Just means the thing is
10, 15, 30
So-
years from now,
You know, 25 years from now, if somebody else decides they want to put
solar panels.
solar panels on the middle school roof because they haven't heard from us what a bad idea it was initially, then they could potentially do that. And I'll be counting on those of you who are still around to remind them. Thank you.
No, and take a feather in your cap. I mean, the car canopies, both at the high school and at the middle school, the solar canopies. I mean, you're not against solar. It's just, you
Roof.
Exactly.
Very simple.
Where they leak, and it's not just you. I'm sorry. I was like in the space of, you know, like a week after these conversations, I had another district asking me that we built a brand new elementary school in 2015. It had code requires it to be solar ready for new construction. So and now they're forcing it, or the MSBA is asking these renovation projects to have it. All right. But yeah, and so they installed like 2 years later the panels, and that was 2016 and 2025. They're calling me like, hey, you haven't filed the warranty, or you know, and so because they're leaking at the solar panels that they installed. So it's not just you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
Great
much.
night. So we have a placeholder warrant, for town meeting on 20th. Which includes, you know, the 9.9, which was the really top, budget. And so what would need to happen is, honestly, my recommendation would be that we make a little bit more of a presentation to the community, talk through the issues that we have at Norton Middle School, talk through the costs. We can run through, while yes, we're showing you this 9.9 number, this is what the town share would be on that number. And again, have not gone out to bid. Hopefully it would be lower. And then we would move forward from there. If the committee feels like we aren't ready to do that in October, then we would have a conversation about it. We would go to the MSBA and ask for an extension. The other thing I shared with you guys tonight is a little bit more of a detailed timeline. We found this week, 2 massive boxes and a closet, that were just titled Norton Middle School Roof Leaks. And spent some time going through those and trying to put together. They were actually, one box is a little bit water damaged. And so spent a lot of time going through those and trying to put together a little bit more of a comprehensive timeline for you. So, school opened its doors on, September 9th of 1998. And by January, we already had, consistent communication between Norton Public Schools, the GC, and the roofing company. They began an investigation in February of 99 as to why the leaks were taking place. And then in the spring of 99, there was a meeting to discuss corrective work. And what was found was that the flashing that was installed and that the masonry work around the key entry points was not done to not done to specifications set out in the design plan. And so that began in April of 1989. So, yeah, sorry, 99, thank you. 1999. And so while, the building had not even been open really for 6 months, when we were already having these issues. So I think going through all of this work, and Wade and Christine and I sat and we looked at a lot of documents. The sheer amount of communication between the schools, the general contractor, the Firestone, who was the manufacturer of the roofer themselves, the amount of lawsuits and legal cases that were also a part of it. There was, between the general contractor and the roofers, between the general contractor and the masons. It was really very weedy and trying to kind of get a good understanding of exactly what happened. So this gives you a little bit more information. February of 21, basically Firestone communicated to Norton that the warranty would not be in place until they got their remaining payment from the general contractor. General contractor was holding back funds because of the leaks. And then right underneath that says 2011, but that should say 21. 2001. There was, at that point, work had been done, but it still wasn't done correctly. And so, all of these things that were really, really challenging. In October of 2006, there was a consultant came out and take a look at all the repairs that were done. And there was a recommendation to put forward a warrant in the town meeting to get design services to study and prep a bid for repairs. We went through the RFP process in January of 27. I found old town meeting warrant from February of 2007 that allocated $24,000 for engineering and design of Norton Middle School roof. I can't find any documentation as to what actually occurred with that. It does look like there was some waterproofing that was done by Chapman Waterproofing in the spring of 07. And then literally from 2001 to 2013, there are probably anywhere between 8 to 12, maybe 6 to 12 communications between Norton Public Schools and Firestone, the brand manufacturer, every single year, looking to use the warranty that we had to come out for roof repair. So it has been one giant mess from day one. I also noted, just money that we've put towards roofing repairs just in these last couple of years. 2017, we did a big, patch to the metal portion of the cafeteria roof. So that way we could stop those leaks. It did work for a few years, and now it's starting to fail again. So I think you have all heard me say this before. We are paying the price of those who came before us. And I have to say, there is a huge amount of documentation from, all the way back to Dr. Demora, was many superintendents ago before me, really trying to hold people accountable to the work that was not done properly. And here we are all these years later.
Was MSBA involved in the building of the middle school?
Not at the time. However, they did give grants to districts that were still paying down their debt from building projects. So we actually have a letter that I found from, I believe it was 2011, where we received about $9 million to help us pay off the middle school itself. So that was something I pulled up and I found in our files, which I was surprised that I didn't recollect. And again, I wasn't here in 1998 when that project was happening. But yeah,
I only ask this, and were they made aware of the history of?
So because the project didn't go through them initially,
so
it was like our own project. So
we can't really.
no, and it's, we held a lot of money back from like our retainage. So we held money back, and then the general contractor held money back from the subcontractors. And it ended up in a lawsuit. We, as a town, ended up paying out $60,000 in April of 2003, to pay for the remaining work that was done through a settlement agreement. And so, it's not a full picture, but I think it's definitely more of a picture than I think what we've seen in the past. We can't find any documentation on, the holes that were drilled into the metal roof. We can't find a work order for that. We can't find anything that surrounds that, or any information about that metal roof, the warranty, being voided at that time. But we just found those boxes, so it makes you wonder if there are other boxes out there that potentially may have more information for us. It's definitely a good advertisement as to why going digital is the way to go in the future.
Plus old newspaper clippings that I found is when Norton hired a consultant inspector school with that was July 16th, 1998, 27 years ago.
All right, so we've been having this conversation for a long time.
So I guess my kind of overarching question is, if we go to town meeting and before we decide that we can get an extension for the spring, that obviously pushes back the timeline till next summer. But I'm sure they can't get it done.
We would be looking at summer of 27 versus summer of 26.
So how does that affect the MSBA or any of the other? Is it just more, will the MSBA, do we think they would grant an extension if we say, well, we need to wait till town meeting, we need to wait till spring town meeting, or?
So the guidelines around securing funding is that you are supposed to have your funding set within 90 days of it being approved at their board. So we are currently scheduled to be on their board approval for October 28th, which if we were to do the October town meeting, then we're good, right? What we could do is we could ask for an extension. There's no guarantee they would grant it. And see if they would allow us to go to May. I think it might be worthwhile to perhaps see if maybe one or two people from the committee is willing to sit down with Christine and Wade and I and figure out what questions do we still have, what concerns are still out there. And, decide, are we going to present? If we are going to present, how can we do it in a way where I'm presenting, perhaps somebody from school committee is standing up there with me and saying, these are the things that need to happen. This is a lot of, obviously not doing the roof isn't an option. The second, letting it leak is not the backup choice here. So we need to figure out exactly what can we do as a school community. I know there was talk about us going out to bid on our own. I think the important thing for us to know is that we would need to engage another contractor. go through a schematic design, have that person write up a bid for us, because we couldn't use the work that was just done through the AG's, like Christine called the AG to figure out, like, could we take what has already been done? We paid for it, like, don't we own it? No, because it goes through.
Because it's their intellectual property.
Exactly. So those are some things for us to talk about. We can do that here as a full group, or we could, think about it and get our thoughts together, and it's really up to the committee.
Has there been an assessment done of the structural integrity of the roof with all of the water damage and the leaking? Like, if we got, in theory, a very heavy snowy winter, like, are we gonna have a situation like that happened at I forget where the school was, where the whole thing
Bridgewater.
just went from. Well, there was the Bridgewater one that happened like 10 years ago, but like there was one recently this past winter where like the whole thing collapsed, like there was a picture of it just flipped into the classroom.
I'll defer to Wade on that, but
The winter we had was 2015, then.
2015, yeah.
Yeah, that's what, like 10 years ago, the Bridgewater incident, yep. That was, yeah, but, yeah. It was my friend's school at work, yeah.
So
had
we
it
talked
recently.
about obviously built in cement. There's no structural damage over there, it's a cost competitive design, they do everything is on that. Again, it's, she's not pulling away back.
Right, and that's what I'm asking, because again, that was 10 years ago, so now this roof is 10 years older, and if we got a winter like 2015 again, like, is that? It's one of those things where I feel like people are going to ask, like, how pressing. Because we are talking a high monetary number here, and basically, like, I feel as if it's like, unless the roof's gonna fall on them, we're not gonna pay, so. I'm just theorizing and being realistic.
yeah, I think I think structurally we're in a good place. I think this slide here was interesting to me when we were talking through it with them earlier this afternoon. Because I said, okay, like this Wayland School is half the size of us, the 44,000 square feet. I think we're like 78 or something like that on this rubber EPDM roof. Sorry, I have such a mental block in that. And you look, that's 2 million. That's a huge difference between 2 million and 9 million. It's 5 years ago. And I think that's the other concern that I have. It's just like paving that exit out in front of the middle school. What started at $40,000 is now up to $77,000 in a short period of time. Yes, the market rises and falls. We know we are all paying more for things right now. I don't know what it's going to look like in 2 or 3 or 4 years, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be less money, and there's no guarantee that it's going to be more.
Well,
That's the thing that's.
I mean, you can almost guarantee.
It's
Yeah, right. I mean,
It's definitely gonna be more.
and that's, I mean, it's such a Norton thing to do, is to say, hey, we can't afford it right now. And then we come back later and it's even more money than it was initially.
The issue is town meeting is only going to be able to give whatever we have. We don't have that money at town.
Yeah.
So the issue is, okay, if we go forward with the project, someone says, all right, I'm gonna make a motion to give $4.2 million to the school to fix their roof. Where is the $4 million coming from all of the bonds?
So, but we can vote to borrow at town meeting,
Okay.
correct? Not necessarily, I'm not talking about like a debt exclusion, but we could vote to borrow, which I think is what
What I
James said. Yeah, right? I mean, they would have to decide if we're gonna borrow, but.
And like, that's my thing. So I don't know. The problem is I feel like no one really knows what to do. I think everyone agrees that we can't just let the roof keep leaking. Yeah, that's not.
Agreed.
That's a loop, like, that is ultimately what we don't want to do. But at the same point is the town, I don't think, has $4.2 million laying around that they can give to this project at the current moment. So therefore, in order to get any money, it's either borrowing it or through a debt exclusion. I can't put a debt exclusion in a town meeting in October. So I don't know what October is looking like. I just feel like I can't see, I don't know. I just don't see any scenario in October that the town's gonna say, oh, okay.
So with with the MSBA extension, are we anticipating it would, everything would stay the same, 55% and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
That would all stay the same as long as we got it voted in like this fiscal year.
I don't see, and again, you could be wrong. I just don't see the MSBA saying no to a roof that isn't leaking.
No, I'm not saying they're gonna say no. I'm just saying, I don't want to
When
start
you've
the
already
process
said, yeah,
again.
he already said yes. So if we say, hey, this is what our plan's going to be, I don't see them being like, well, hold on, we're gonna give you that money, but you guys can't get your stuff together. No, we're out. Maybe I'm wrong. I just,
Unless they, you know, well, we have 6 other projects coming up now.
Yes.
Sorry, you had your chance.
So, but Justin was there as well. They were not in favor of that. So I
course not.
agree. I don't think that they were going to. She was like, you could, I mean, they're very lenient where they've helped us out with just paperwork that we were trying to work through. They're like, I'm like, I said, it's due January 31st. They're like, it's okay, just get it to us by the following. So I do think there'd be leniency there. I think us talking to her about the whole hesitation of the town funding the project in general is why they seem not warm and fuzzy.
Right, because what's gonna stop them 5, 6 months from now?
Right.
It's gonna change the mind.
Right, and then when it comes to with the town borrowing, as James has said too, at FinCom, it would be how much we would have to pay on interest. With typically with the MSBA projects, you're not gonna borrow, like, even with the train, then just borrow the 12 million. They borrowed it in stages. Because it's accelerated, it's a little more difficult because you would have to borrow most of it up front. So most of the money that's reimbursed would have to be the $4 million, but we'd only have to initially pay on the interest, which is where it's coming up with that 400,000. That, you're right, would be taken out of.
Correct. The other thing is that I am presenting this to Finance Committee on Monday night,
Yeah, I was gonna.
the 29th.
This has been presented.
So we may have a better understanding of where they're at and what their thought process is after Monday night, which would give us a little bit more guidance if, yes, we want to continue to go through with this, or we want to hold and do it in the spring.
and then I think my last and final question. This all went wrong. We know that, right?
Yeah. What's to
No one on
say,
what's here.
to say it's not gonna go wrong next?
No one on here is
Right.
a roofing expert. I don't expect our administration who are or administrators who are trying to teach children to be experts in putting in roofs. When this goes to bid, we have a company come out and says, "Well, we can do it for $4 million. Who in this town is going to say, this looks good and we're not dealing with this exact same problem?
The two guys.
That's why you have the OPM and.
Right, with the exception of the fact that you have the MSBA involved. I think that
So-
adds a little bit more clout to it. That's why I asked,
But how did this all happen?
because we didn't have the MSBA.
Because it wasn't MSBA.
It was independently.
And it was,
So-
no one oversaw the project.
So the town at that time hired a clerk of the works. Who was.
I'm sorry, that just sounds silly. The clerk.
So it was basically like it's very typical. It's basically like you're hiring your own owner's project manager. 1998 it was called clerk of the works, and that person oversaw all aspects of this project. And so, I mean, we found, Wade, please.
As well as your local inspectors. So
Yes.
To Nick's point, our local inspectors were on this job as well, and they oversee that project as well. So our local building inspector signed off on that on middle school, one point or another. But to your point, he's not a roofing engineer, he's not a roofing expert, so that's why you hire a clerk of the work, or your OPM will hire his own clerk of the work. Somebody's on site every day taking pictures. When we did this project, as well as the JCS roof, they're there every day, all day long, while the work's being done, taking pictures, reporting back to the owner what they're seeing, what's going on, reporting back to the town, what's happening, what's going on. So when inspectors do get out there, they're kind of up to speed on things. So, if I could just say one more thing, I'm sorry, like, Firestone to manufacture of this. They stood by their warranty. We had them out to Jen's point, over 25 times. Actually, that roof, they weren't, that roof was warranted for 15 years. They stood by that. The roof that was not warranted was the metal roof. That's because of the work that was done before any of us got here. And that's what the metal roof working. But the rubber roof itself, has had plenty of work done on it, and Firestone is just a manufacturer. They recommend, so we had Skyway, Gateway out there, we had Marshall's out there, we had Let Roofing out there. We've had plenty of work done on that, but I don't know, 3 years ago. Firestone did step up. So don't feel like we got shafted when it came to the warranty. Our roof was the metal.
But the rubber roof was taken care of, it was still leaking.
Yeah, so to this point today, so our rubber roof, if any of you have been on one, it's through the years, every time you walk on that roof, and we have to walk on this roof to change filters. We have to work on this roof when we change the motor. You have people on there all day long walking over there, and there's rivets that eventually pop through. There's like soft foot that blow off that rip the roof that you have to go back to actually. When you have a flat roof like this, you have so much equipment on your roofs. If you do, you have to get up there to service those equipment, and every time you go out there, especially if they're like beaches.
Yep, here.
And every time you stop on it, you go in the cold, $1.15, you know, the snow. We have engineers tell us, the snow, basically, rain, basically, what we have to get up. We had men up there with shovels, shoveling flat rubber, like here. This will load them on the roof. So it's, flat roofs are not, they're not great, but they serve a purpose. Fortunately, I don't see we're lucky to get as many years out of middle school as we got. And so you've done a really good job, and since 2015, since I've been here, we've done a really good job in making sure that people stay off the roof that don't need to be on the roof. We're only up there when we need to be up there. And I think the middle school, to your quality air question, when we remove the rugs, that was one of the biggest things. Was creating a lot of those ones that's certainly helped building a lot too. So it's just onto its thing. You got clothes on my desk to repair it again in the winter, if that's the decision that they make. We're there to do whatever we gotta do to keep the building safe and fine for the money. You guys decide to do and we'll do it. There's plenty of professionals that make sure it's, and then we will not avoid here.
Just another mention. So the second page of the information I share with you tonight, this is from our report in February 1999. And it talks about like the primary reasons that we were having the leaks that we were. And it's the things that we're always talking about. It's, the metal gable roofs. It's the sloping of some areas of the roof itself, the elevation changes. There's so many different levels of roofing over there. And then the last page in there, this is the report from 2006 when the consultant came out and gave it to the superintendent at that time. Also talks about, some of the reason, the flashing that wasn't installed properly, the waterproofing that was not installed continuously or properly. So theoretically, getting this roof done, we'll be able to fix those issues at the same time. We're gonna be able, and again, not a roofing expert. But
I just can't understand how they weren't held accountable for this, and how this was okay.
well, and boxes and boxes and
I just don't
boxes
get it.
of documentation of the back and forth and the saying, we're not gonna pay for this and we're
I don't
holding this money.
understand.
And
Then what's the point of a warranty?
it's so, I think the primary issue that we discovered when we were kind of going through the documents, it wasn't necessarily the roof itself that was faulty. It was the workmanship.
Right.
It was improperly installed.
So why there wasn't accountability there, I just don't understand.
Any other business, or I should say, any other roof?
What's the final plan?
I think we really have to see what.
FinCom recommends.
It's gonna come down. And we don't control the money. There has to be solutions in place with the other boards that say, if it's this, then we do this. I mean, maybe some sort of community forum presentation for this is in order.
And personally, I think that we can have them come back out on Monday night and walk through the roof, but I quite honestly feel like it's gonna be better coming from us and saying, because I think we know the people at finance committee. I think finance committee knows us, and trusts us perhaps a little bit more than somebody coming in from the outside.
Correct, right, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, I'm not, yeah, no. So. Well, I'll put some slides together and I'll share it with all of you and we can talk about what else we want to include and we'll see what they say. And then we'll make our decision at that point.
When's that FinCom meeting?
Monday, 7:00.
Thank you.
Town hall?
Indeed.
Well, we can only have 2 members present.
Oh,
No, we just can't.
You cannot debate.
we just can't talk, right? Yeah, the president hasn't.
Yep, back in July 1990.
Oh, go.
So back in July 1990, before the middle school was open, it was still leaking and leaking and leaking and leaking. And 27 years later, it's still leaking.
My life, Peter.
Mayor, you gotta figure this out.
Any other business to present?
I just have something. It's been a little chatter I've noticed recently about negotiations, so I just wanted to make a little blanket statement. The Norton School Committee understands that our community has questions about the ongoing contract negotiations. We encourage everyone to ask questions and seek clear and accurate information regarding current negotiation sessions. The committee will always and continues to bargain in good faith with a goal of reaching a fair agreement. While differences remain, I want to assure everyone that the school committee will continue to focus on student learning and hope to have negotiations completed soon. The school committee values the commitment of our teachers and the trust of our families, and we remain dedicated to working toward a resolution. Thank you.
Anything else? Entertain a motion from here.
So. That is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Good meeting.